An entitled hotel guest took off with our car keys and refused to bring them back, stating that if we wanted them back, then someone's gonna have to follow them and go and get it, leaving me completely blown away that someone would actually do this to us. Here's what happened. Okay, so we were staying at a hotel in La Jolla, and for reference, this is a very nice hotel with great service. We called down to the valet to get our car brought around from the garage so we could visit my older mother at her nearby residence. Well, when we get down to the valet station, there is no car in sight, and even after waiting, we still have no car. The valets go check and discover that our car is in the garage, but apparently the key is missing. After checking around, they look at the security footage of the valet stand, and they see that a hotel employee had placed the key on a stand by the valet desk. And before valet could get to it and go over to get our car, another hotel guest had just walked up and taken the key. The guest then proceeded to get in their own car and drive off. The hotel contacted the guest by phone and told them that they had taken the wrong key and that they should return with it. Well, the guest responded that they were driving to Oceanside, about 20 miles away, and that they were not going to turn around. So a hotel employee got into a car and started driving after them and asked them to name a spot where they could stop and meet up so that they could turn over the key. Well, the guest responded that they were going to go on to their destination, so the employee had to go there too if they wanted the key back. Meanwhile, we used our backup key to drive our car to visit my mom. When we got back to the hotel, our key had been recovered, and the hotel had sent a good bottle of wine to our room to apologize for the incident, and the staff was embarrassed and very apologetic. But here's the thing, I don't blame the staff. The staff is great. They went above and beyond anything I would ever expect. The idiot who grabbed a random key without bothering to check if it was the right one, and then refused to alter their plan at all to get it returned, that's the thoughtless jerk that we blame. And if you're wondering how they drove off with the wrong key, when the valets bring the car down from the garage, they leave the key in the car at the valet station, usually either above the sun visor or in a cup holder. So the impatient idiot's key was already in their car waiting for them when they stole our key, because of course they were too important to wait another 10 seconds to ask somebody or to even go check for themselves, which really makes this whole situation incredibly pointless. Man, imagine being so entitled that you not only take the wrong key, but you don't even bother taking it back to the valet station, and instead you're like, oh yeah, we're gonna drive away. Like if I knew I took someone's car key by accident, I would turn around immediately. I'd be like, dude, I'm so sorry, this is awful, let me bring it back to you, or something like that. Don't just drive off. So yeah, these people were entitled jerks because they could have easily turned around and fixed this entire situation. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not letting my brother's girlfriend be in our wedding family photo, as my brother is constantly dating someone new every 2 months, and I simply didn't want a stranger in our photos that he's gonna break up with in just a few weeks. Here's what's happening. I'm a 28-year-old male and I recently got married. Everything went well overall, but there was a bit of drama involving my brother and his current girlfriend. Basically, my brother has a new girlfriend like every month. I'm not exaggerating. He never had a relationship that lasted longer than 2 to 3 months, and we've all just kind of gotten used to it. It's even like a family joke to an extent. So when it came time to take our official family wedding photos, I got him to the side and I asked him politely if his girlfriend could sit out of that specific photo. And mind you, this is another girlfriend who he had been with for about 2 months. We included her in the casual shots, but for the formal family portrait that's going to be framed and hung up in our home, I just didn't want to include someone who we probably won't ever see again in a month or so in our family picture that will stay with us forever. Well, when I said that, he got really upset and said that I was being disrespectful to him and his relationship. He said I'm acting like his relationships don't matter. My dad then came and convinced him for a moment to take the photo without her, but they left early after taking the photo, and now he's barely talking to any of us. Worst thing is that my mom is on his side and said I should have included her and that I can't know if their relationship is gonna last or not. And now both my brother and my mom are mad at me. I don't feel like I did anything wrong, and I've got nothing against her personally. I mean, she seems nice, but I know my brother. I don't think he takes relationships seriously. He had more girlfriends last year than I had in my entire lifetime, and honestly at this point I'm not sure if I'm the jerk or not. Dude, there's no way you're the jerk. This is so stupid. Your brother dates girls all the time and he's constantly breaking up and hooking up again, and he's trying to be like, oh come on, let my new girlfriend be in the photo. Meanwhile, next week they're probably gonna break up. Like the clock's ticking on this relationship. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, and the fact that your mom and brother are mad at you is incredibly dumb. My entitled mom wants to eat our wedding cake top as some kind of like family event. So my wife and I are planning to perform a cake heist, where we sneak in there, get our cake unannounced, and then get out of there before she could do anything to it. Because right now I've completely run out of options, and at this point I don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so we're coming up on our first wedding anniversary, and it falls on a Monday of this year. My mom approached me recently and told me that we could cut into our wedding cake top with the whole family the day before our anniversary because she wants to be part of our anniversary celebration and the weekend is more convenient for everyone. Now, I was planning to cut the cake with my wife only on our actual anniversary. The cake top is in my mom's freezer and she has a full-size freezer in her garage and we only have a small apartment-size half freezer. Now, of course, I doubt the cake will be as good as the day we had it, but it's more so for the symbolism of our anniversary. For my parents' anniversaries, we've never been a part of it. They go on trips without us and they've never asked us to join them, so I'm a bit frustrated at this double standard. My wife and I would not mind sharing the cake with them after our anniversary, but from talking with my mom, it sounds like she wants us to make it into a family thing, and that just doesn't seem normal to me. My mom also caused a lot of unnecessary drama and stress surrounding our wedding last year in that she wanted to forego hair and makeup that my wife had arranged for, and we had covered the cost of, mind you, and would laugh condescendingly at us when we tried to express our viewpoints on why these things were important to us. She also tried to invite a bunch of people even though she was not paying for anything. So from that experience leading up to our wedding, I learned that she lacks respect for myself as an adult, my wife, and our marriage. My wife and I thought the best way to resolve this is to perform a cake heist, as I don't want to risk giving my mom a heads up and allowing something to happen. I'm not sure if she would eat it directly out of spite, but I also wouldn't put it past her. So seriously, what's everyone's thought on the cake heist itself? I plan on just going over there unannounced to secure the cake, because right now I seriously am completely out of options. Okay, first of all, I want to say that your mom absolutely would eat that cake out of spite. She would throw it away, she would sabotage it. Like the second you say no, we're doing our own thing, is the second she's gonna be like, oops, I threw it away by accident. So pulling off a cake heist, in my opinion, is the best plan possible. I would take that cake and run, dude. She absolutely is gonna try and pull something if you don't listen to her. And it's so weird that she's trying to somehow make this all about her. Like she's trying to be like, oh, this is an anniversary and we're gonna make this a family thing. When in reality, it seems like she just wants to take away from your big day. And that sounds really annoying. Like that really sounds super frustrating to me. So hopefully you have a successful heist, because this sounds like a possible nightmare waiting to happen. Because I know if I was in this situation, this is exactly what I would do. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not letting my friend eat off my plate, even though she paid for the dinner? Because now she's treating me really differently and my friends are saying that I was being dramatic. And at this point, I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this happened last weekend and I'm still kind of annoyed about it. I'm a 22-year-old female and I went out to eat with my best friend who we will call Amber. We've been close since high school and we usually split stuff or take turns paying, but this time she offered to treat me because I helped her with her job resume, which was really sweet. Anyways, we go to this cute diner, I order pancakes with strawberries and whipped cream, which is my favorite, and she gets an omelet. When the food came, she immediately reaches over with her fork and goes, oh, let me try a bite. But I literally just said to her, no, can you not? Because one, I was starving, and two, I have a thing about people picking at my food, even friends. Like, at least ask me first. She kind of laughed it off, but then she said to me, girl, I paid for this meal. I'm basically renting those pancakes. But I told her that paying doesn't mean that she gets bites of my food, and now she's kind of being weird about it, saying I was rude and ungrateful. I said I didn't ask her to pay, and if she only did it to sneak forkfuls of my plate, then she can chill next time. Our other friends said that I was being dramatic, and it's not that big of a deal to share food. But like for me, it's not about the food, it's the boundary. So am I the jerk for saying no even though she paid for the food I was about to eat? Because right now, I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Okay, I think I can definitely see where the original poster is coming from. If she had asked first and said, hey, can I try a piece of the pancake or something like that, then I probably would have been like, yeah, sure, take a bite. But it's the fact that she reached over with her fork and is like, okay, let me get some of that right now. Like, that's really weird and super entitled, especially for her to say like, oh yeah, I'm renting those pancakes. It's like, no, you're not. You paid for it so that I could eat it. If you wanted pancakes, why not get it for yourself? Like, this is kind of weird. So no, in this scenario, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think what you're saying completely makes sense. A stranger I was sharing a room with in the hospital demands that I give her my wheelchair so that she can run some errands. And even though I told her that this is my personal wheelchair and I own it, she still decided to give me a weird attitude, leaving me completely baffled at the entire scenario. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been in the hospital for just over 2 weeks and my legs are almost completely paralyzed. So I can't even stand, let alone walk. And this is a known thing on the shared ward I'm in. But today I'm highly likely to be discharged. And simultaneously, the woman in the bed next to me has day leave so she can run and get some errands. She has her leg in a cast so she can't exactly walk herself, but obviously there are options and accommodations which the hospital can provide. Her and I have had a few pleasant conversations and get along pretty well. I mean, you sort of have to when you're in this forced close quarters. But what she said genuinely baffled me. She asked me if she could borrow my wheelchair for her day out, rather than use a hospital provided one. Now bear in mind that this wheelchair is my personal chair, and without it, I'm I'm completely immobile and I would be stuck on this hospital bed. She knows this information, but she still had the gall to get upset when I said no. Even if I wasn't getting discharged today, it's still my personal wheelchair, fitted to my specifications, and everything is set how I need it. This wheelchair is my legs, so she is essentially asking to take my legs. She had such a grimace on her face when I said no, and hasn't said a word to me ever since then, not even looked in my direction. I'm just so baffled as to why she would feel entitled to my personal wheelchair. It's like, lady, you're in a hospital. Use one of the others, but don't try to take mine. Yeah, that is a very weird scenario. I can't believe someone would be like, hey, let me borrow your wheelchair. Because the next thing you know, she's gonna come back and be like, oh, this was always mine. And then you're out of a wheelchair and you're like, wait a second, what's going on here? Then it's this big thing and it's like, dude, I do not want to deal with this. So no, if she really wants a wheelchair, then guess what? Use one of the ones the hospital can provide. It really seems like she only wants yours because it's probably a lot better than the hospital provided ones. And that, in my opinion, is not a good enough reason for her to take it, because who knows if she will ever give it back. Am I the jerk for talking to a guy in such a way that literally shut down all of his questions about my job? Because everybody I talk to makes me feel like the bad guy. And at this point, I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Here's what's going on. I'm a 27-year-old female and I work at a summer day camp. Now, for a bit of background information, the summer camp I work at is connected to a gym, so the gym guests and our campers have to share the same bathroom in both the men's and women's restrooms. We have 2 stalls reserved for just the kids to use and have a sign posted in front of those stalls that they are literally just for the kids. The summer camp staff is primarily women and we have very few male staff. We have one male site director, but directors are always busy and they're not always available. Now, part of my job at the summer camp is to listen and watch out for kids so that they can be safe while they use the bathroom. This is to make sure that the kids aren't playing or being inappropriate with each other and that adults aren't approaching or talking to them in the restrooms. Whenever I'm watching over the boys in the restroom, I'm always in the doorway of the restroom. I never go all the way in unless I need to. Now, male guests will see me and be slightly startled because there's a woman in the men's restroom, but they don't care because they already know about the summer camp. Now, I was doing the same thing I do every single day by standing in the doorway of the restroom, telling my boys to occasionally hurry up so I can send the next kids in, when all of a sudden a tall, balding, middle-aged white guy stops in front of the locker room door and stares at me for a minute before he starts talking to me. And trust me, this guy is incredibly weird. He says to me, "Excuse me, ma'am, do you know there are children in here?" I say to him that yes, I know that. And he says to me, "Do you know there's adult men here too?" When he questioned me again, I said, yes, I do know. He then said to me, "Well, I don't think it's appropriate for a woman to be in the men's restroom." I said to him, "Well, I understand that, sir, but it's just part of my job." He then started to question me and say, "Well, what's your job? I don't understand why you're in here." So I explained to him, I work at the summer camp. My job is to make sure the kids don't go into the stalls or let adults talk to them. He then literally asked to speak to a manager. And when I explained to him that this is my job, he literally circled back and said, "Well, why are you in the restroom?" But I just responded back by saying, "This is my job." To which he said, "Oh, but that's inappropriate that you're in here." I then said to him again, "Sir, this is my job. I need to make sure the children don't go into the same stalls or let adults talk to them." He then said to me, "Okay, but you're standing and hanging out in the men's restroom, having a whole conversation with me." But then I just interrupted him and I said, "Sir, you started talking to me first." Now, mind you, I was calm and did not move from my spot in the doorway at all during this whole interaction. But after I said that, he took a pause and stomped away into the connecting locker room. I stayed in the doorway until my kids finished their business. I then told my director and a few other camp counselors about the whole interaction, and they were completely on my side. My director even told the gym's front desk receptionist about what happened to me with my description, and they said they'd keep an eye out for him in the future. Now, even though almost everyone was on my side, when I told a few relatives about it, they said that I shouldn't have escalated the situation, and I should have just left quickly to get a male staff or my director. Now, I don't think I'm the jerk, but those relatives are making me second guess myself. And at this point, I'm honestly just not sure if I made a mistake. Now, you definitely did not make a mistake. You are not the jerk here. That guy was being super creepy and weird. First of all, you were literally looking out for the kids. You were taking care of them. You were making sure they were not getting lost or hurt or anything like that. And you literally were just doing your job. And then this guy comes up and is like, what are you doing here? This doesn't make any sense. And despite the fact that you tried to explain it to him, he still just was refusing to understand. So personally, I think your relatives are idiots for being like, you escalated the situation. Because dude, what did you do? You sat there and calmly just explained why you were standing there. You weren't causing a scene, this guy was. Because if anyone's a jerk in this scenario, it is definitely that weird guy. Because his interrogation of you was completely uncalled for. My former job refuses to give me the raise that I absolutely deserve, saying that I'm not working enough overtime all because I'm leaving my job on time. But eventually, I found a job that was paying me 60% more than what this company was paying me, and I'm now way happier at this job than I've ever been in my life. Here's what happened. A couple years ago, I was working for a corporation as an analyst. Company culture was that working insane overtime was bragged about and praised, when in reality, these people are working overtime because they do so much meaningless work that could be automated in a dozen different ways. I've always been very flexible with my time because my management has always been flexible with me, such as needing to take a long lunch or leave early for an appointment, stuff like that, and I've always been very forthcoming about this. However, if I don't have to work late, I'm not doing it. I finish all of my responsibilities during normal work hours and I wrap things up neatly at the end of the day to have a smooth start to the next week. Now, I had been in this position for a little over a year and I went into it knowing that I was being severely underpaid, and I'm very confident in the output of my work. I've always got great marks on performance reviews and constant praise for what I was doing, so I felt deserving of a raise and I requested it. And the amount I asked for was 20%, which is large, I understand, and I debated that for a while because I knew I was not getting the full amount. But this is how severely I was underpaid, and I knew that 20% was the cap by our company's policies. Well, I was immediately rejected any raise because I come into the office at 8 and I leave right at 5 o'clock, while everyone else stays late, and that I never offered help others out when they're overloaded, which basically means that they work late while I leave on time. The first part of this supposed feedback actually came from someone else who worked on our floor, and I never even worked with this guy in my life. My manager was all about perception and not really about the reality of things, which I understand is general corporate culture, but that doesn't mean it's not BS. So I think to myself, okay, I can change that. Around 4:30 every single day, I would ping my manager asking if there was anything she needed help with to finish out the day, and I documented all of this in a Word document. So day in and day out, there wasn't a single thing she ever asked me to do in addition to the work I was already doing. I would even test things out and stay until about 5:30 some days, just to see who else is working late, and very seldomly has anyone ever been in the office like 5 minutes past when we're supposed to leave. Eventually, my manager said I don't need to be checking in with her at the end of every single day. I said okay, no problem, but I just want to let you know that you can always reach out if you need help with something, because I can't be expected to know your workload if you don't communicate. Our relationship stayed very strained after that. I was desperate to leave the company, especially once the raise was fully rejected after receiving above average performance review for being in the job for only a year. Finally, I got another offer about 5 months later that was a 60% raise. My prior company then offered me the same 60% raise and a promotion, but I took the new company's offer and I've never been happier in my life. Oh man, good for you for going with the other company. I would have done the same thing. Any company that's gonna be like, oh wait, you're leaving? Oh, just kidding. We'll give you a 60% raise now. Here's a new promotion as well. Please stick around. It's like, dude, where were you when I was like, all I want is a 20% raise? I just want to get paid what I'm worth. Like, seriously, give me the amount I need. Like, you already were getting severely underpaid, and these people are trying to be like, oh, you're not staying late long enough. Sorry, but you're not going to get paid more. And it's like, dude, who is staying late? Like, literally nobody is. So good for you for going in a different direction, because this job does not sound very fun. My dad's friend got revenge on their jerk neighbor after this neighbor stole a parking spot that was snowplowed out specifically for an elderly father's car, resulting in this idiot neighbor getting their car blocked in for the entire winter. Here's what happened. Okay, if anyone is familiar with Chicago in the winter, there's this thing called dibs. This is where you clear the snow from the street directly in front of your house and put something in the spot, like a lawn chair or a couch or something like that, just so you can keep someone else from parking in it. Now, this was a very heavy snow, with an Arctic blast forecast to come in the late evening. My dad's friend cleared the snow in front of the house so his elderly father could park. He was gone just a few minutes to get his dibs item, but when he returned, he found his neighbor had just parked in the spot. He then told this neighbor that the spot was for his dad, but the neighbor just laughed and said, oh, you didn't have any dibs, too bad. Well, this is where things get really interesting. Later that night, my dad's buddy came out and built a ridge of snow around the car, about a third of the way up to the door. Since it was wet and heavy snow, it packed really well. He packed it up nice and tight and created a barrier around the car. He then grabbed his hose and filled the area under this neighbor's car, knowing that the Arctic blast would take care of the rest. The next morning, he was woken up by the neighbor pounding on his door, screaming about their car. The water had frozen completely solid underneath the car, and we're talking through the wheels, partially up the doors, and into the lower part of the engine. The car was unable to be entered and was completely immobilized. Well, the neighbor called the cops. My dad's friend explained the situation and heard both sides of it. At the end of it, the cops told the neighbor that what he did was wrong and he got what he deserved. Now, as much as it was an inconvenience for my dad's friend, that car sat there for the next several months until it thawed out. The neighbor even called several tow companies, but because of the ice, nobody would touch it. Obviously, the neighbor never did that again, and also, for some unknown reason, the neighbor never talked to my dad's friend ever again either. And also, this happened about 40 years ago, where most people weren't so sue happy back then as they are today. Okay, I love that last little bit where they're like, yeah, it was like 40 years ago, so it definitely didn't happen like in today's day and age, because I can absolutely see somebody not only suing you over this, but also the cops being like, okay, you got to clean this up or else you're going to jail or something like that. But also, as someone who has lived in like a really snowy area before, this is absolutely a thing. If you dig out a spot in front of your house, it's yours and you absolutely deserve every right to it. Like if I took the time to clear out a spot so I can park my car and someone stole that spot, dude, I would lose my mind. And in Chicago, no less, where the winters are brutal, like, dude, there's no way I would let that go. So I love this revenge, like I really do. It's something that you will never see today, but it absolutely was deserved. Like that cop hit the nail on the head, dude. There's no way this guy didn't deserve that. And the fact that he laughed in this guy's face and said, "Too bad, so sad," for me makes this entire scenario so much better. Today, I found out that my roommate is a kleptomaniac, as she has literally been stealing from me and everybody else in the house we all live in. And right now, I want to move out, but I seriously am not sure what to do next. Here's what's going on. So I lived in a shared boarding house, and I share a small room with one of my college friends who we will call Lily for the sake of the story. At first, it felt nice to live with someone I already knew. We split rent and everything seemed fine. But after a few months, I started noticing strange things. Lily's closet was odd. She had a ton of random stuff like multiple bike chains, padlocks, and even hotel-sized soap bars. I didn't think much of it at first, and I just assumed that she liked to collect things or maybe had her reasons. Then one day I noticed that one of my favorite pairs of pants had gone missing. I figured maybe it got mixed up in the laundry or someone accidentally took it, but 3 days later I saw Lily wearing my pants. I recognized the ink stain on the hem of it, so there was no doubt it was mine. Now I was shocked, but I didn't confront her directly because I was still trying to process it. Maybe she thought it was hers or something like that, but it was still weird. But then things escalated. Over the next month, more and more people in our boarding house started losing clothing, especially from the shared clothesline area. At first, we thought it was just mix-ups, but it became too frequent, and some items were too specific to be accidents. One of the girls in the house became suspicious and suggested we do a room-by-room check, and everyone agreed just to clear the air. When they came to our room, I let them in without a problem, but when they checked Lily's closet, they found a lot. Clothing that didn't belong to her, including stuff other girls had reported missing. Not just clothing, but weird things too. Random soaps, multiple padlocks, a bike chain, and even an empty shampoo bottle that someone else recognized. Well, it turns out that Lily might be a kleptomaniac. I was completely creeped out. I never imagined the person I slept next to every night was stealing from not only me, but everyone around her, and not even valuable stuff. Just small, bizarre things. And now I want to move out as soon as possible. But some people say that I'm being too harsh, and that I should be more understanding because kleptomania is a mental health issue. And don't get me wrong, I get that, and I do feel sorry for her, but I also feel incredibly uncomfortable and violated. So am I overreacting for wanting to leave and cut contact? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, anyone who's trying to blame you for wanting to move out is insane. Yes, it's a mental health issue, but guess what? They're not managing it. And before you know it, all your stuff is gonna be gone. Like seriously, this is an easy one. I would be moving out tomorrow if I found out my roommate was stealing from me, which is of course after getting all my stuff back from my scumbag roommate. So no, you're not the jerk, and honestly, I think it might be a good idea to start that process sooner than later, because having a roommate like that is honestly incredibly sketchy. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My mom is constantly asking me for money, to a point where I literally feel guilty if I don't do it, and I'm honestly not sure what to do now. Here's what's going on. I'm a 17-year-old female, and I live in a single-parent household with just my mom and my brother. I feel like my mom is holding me back and doesn't want me to be independent, and is taking advantage of me even though she claims she wants me to do better than her. She quite literally refuses to teach me how to drive, even though I'm almost 18 years old with a permit. I had a fast food job for about 6 months before I got fired, and I managed to rack up about $1,300. This money was my savings from my car, and mind you, it was her idea for me to save my money. Well, the second I got fired, she yelled at me for an hour, and then she guilt-tripped me about how she claims that I would rather save my money than put food on the table, and that I don't help out in the household, while also saying how I don't do anything in the house or appreciate her. Ever since that argument, she repeatedly kept asking for my money almost every single day. Half of it was on fast food, and half was used on my braces, which she totally blindsided me on that. So my money was gone in 2 to 3 months, and I ended up in negatives for months until just recently. And mind you, she still owes me money. I just graduated high school and I received graduation money, and I had not even had the money for an hour, and she already had to make me spend it. It's been like 2 weeks since I've graduated, and she has been asking me every day, even after I tell her no, I don't have it, yet she still just comes up with solutions and will just not stop bothering me about it. I'm honestly sick of it. And even though we do struggle, I feel like she purposely puts us in this predicament because she could choose to get another job but claims that she's scared. She chose for us to live in a place that we can barely afford, and I think it's honestly so selfish. At this point, I don't know what to do. I turn 18 in a week soon, but I'm afraid that if I say no to her and I put my foot down, she'll try to argue with me again, but also it's just not my responsibility to deal with her financial issues that she caused herself, because at the end of the day, you can only save and help yourself, and she isn't doing anything to do that. But also a part of me felt bad because it's like we can barely afford the bills, but then again, I resent her for this. So how do I keep my money a secret and keep it away from her? What should I do? Okay, honestly, I think you need to understand the fact that she is definitely using you. She's making it seem like, oh, if you don't give me this money, we're gonna starve, we're gonna get evicted, or some other bogus excuse that she's coming up with. She is just trying to make you feel bad because you're the easiest target right in front of her. So on that end, first of all, there's nothing wrong with saving your own money, but secondly, she has no say over it. She literally should not have any access to it, and if you haven't done it already, you should definitely make a new bank account when you're 18 so that you have full control over your money and she can't even look at it. Because I bet what's going on right now is the fact that you're a minor, she's most likely on your account as well, so she can see, oh, you've got some money in there, and then she winds up her guilt-tripping routine, and then you're the one that has to suffer. So yeah, I think it honestly comes down to the fact that you have every right to like completely tell her no, and then to just literally save your funds and find a way to move out, because your mom right now is treating you very poorly, and this is not something a 17-year-old should ever have to deal with. Am I overreacting for feeling hurt after my girlfriend basically said she's not proud to introduce me to her friends, all because I'm a mechanic? Here's what's going on. I'm a 24-year-old male, and I've been dating my girlfriend for almost a year. She's amazing, she's smart, she's driven, she's getting her graduate degree in clinical psychology. I mean, she is everything to me. Her friends are all in that same academic bubble, and her family is pretty status focused. I didn't finish college, and I work full-time as a mechanic, and I actually really like my job. I make solid money, and I'm proud of how far I've come without a degree. Well, anyways, she invited me to a dinner party this weekend to meet her friends, and I was excited. I mean, it felt like a step forward, but right before we left, she got weirdly quiet and finally said, "Just try not to bring up work too much, okay? They could be a little judgy." I didn't even know how to respond when she said that. Then she added, "It's not that I'm not proud of you, I just don't want you to feel awkward or out of place." And when she said that, that really hit me. I kept it together, but the whole night I felt off. I barely talked, and it just felt like I was being prejudged before even walking in the door. When we got back to her place, I told her how much it hurt that it felt like she was really embarrassed of me. But she said I was twisting things and making it bigger than it was. She looked at me and said, "I just want you to be the best version of yourself." Well, ever since then, I've been distant. She's acting all normal, but I just can't shake how it made me feel. I don't know if I'm being too sensitive or if this is something that I should just brush off, but right now I'm wondering if I'm overreacting because this really hurt. Oh man, this really does suck. For the record, being a mechanic is a totally fine job. So for me, the way your girlfriend's acting is super toxic, and it kind of leads me to believe that she's drinking the Kool-Aid her family's giving her. Like she's believing what they're saying about him, and so she's trying to be like, okay, well just don't talk about your job that much. Like that would really sting, like good lord. You're proud of your work, you work really hard, I could imagine. I know I could never be a mechanic, like that's way too complicated for me. And here she is trying to be like, let's just get through this and you just not mention your job, because they're gonna judge you. Which also says, oh, and by the way, I'm not gonna support you if they do that vocally. So no, I don't think you're overreacting, and I don't think this is something you should just brush off, because in my opinion, this is a big red flag of how the rest of your relationship could be if you guys end up getting married. And so far, it definitely does not look good. Am I the jerk for canceling a family vacation to the United States, as I felt it wasn't safe to go there based on everything going on in the world right now? Here's what happened. I'm a 39-year-old female, and I'm turning 40 later this year. At the beginning of the year, I was planning a vacation in celebration of my birthday for a popular tourist spot in the United States. For reference, we are in another country. Because of some personal circumstances with most of my close friends, they said early enough that they would not be able to make it. They all had very valid reasons, and it's been a garbage year so far, so it's all good. But luckily, a few family members who live in a different country than I do, also not in the United States, said that they wanted to come, so I was excited all over again. I booked a vacation house for all of us, but made sure I could cancel with a full refund, as stuff in the United States was starting to get really bad. One family member went ahead and booked their flights, which I thought was a bit premature, but I hope for the best. Well, fast forward a couple of months, and things in the US seem very unstable to me, and myself and my partner and another travel mate, all in the same country, decided that we did not feel safe traveling traveling there this year, and possibly for the foreseeable future. So we let my relative know right away and offer to cover any loss on the ticket they might have, whether refunding it or cover the change fees, whatever cost there was going to be to book someplace else, we would basically work it out. I said I did not want them to be out of anything at all for our decision, and said that we would pick another destination outside of the United States together, which would be somewhere everyone wants to go. Weeks go by and still I have no word from this relative. The others we've informed were disappointed but completely understood, and when we suggested a new destination, this one relative just says in a group chat that they are not interested in joining us regardless of where we choose. And it's like, okay, so I decided to reach out to them in private to discuss it and basically just say if they're upset, I want to make it right. They reply saying that there's no point in talking about it is what it is, and then they refuse to say any more. So now I'm feeling like a jerk, but at the same time, I cannot in good conscience step foot in that country right now. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, this is one of those things where they're like, no, it's fine, whatever. Don't say anything else about it. I don't want to talk about it. Like, that kind of passive-aggressive behavior, in my opinion, should not be rewarded. So no, you're not the jerk. You literally did not feel comfortable coming to the United States, and honestly, as someone who lives here, I don't blame you. And you did your best to try and like inform everybody so everybody knows about it. And if this relative wants to be weird about it and be like, oh, it's fine, whatever, I don't want to talk about it, there's nothing to talk about, then fine, there's nothing to talk about. Because if they want to give this weird passive-aggressive attitude, then congratulations, what you're saying is what you mean. Because for me personally, I would not want to put up with that in the slightest. I found out that my boyfriend's cheating on me with his coworker, and I literally found out by going through his phone where I saw he was talking about marriage with this other lady. And now after being with him for over 6 years, I feel like my entire world is crashing down, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been together for 6 years. 6 years of birthdays, holidays, Sunday brunches, and late night phone calls where we fall asleep on the line. He was my first real everything, the kind of love that people write songs about, or so I thought. I don't know what changed really, maybe nothing changed, and maybe I just started to finally notice the little cracks in a foundation I believed to be solid. It started with a feeling, an ache in my chest that wouldn't go away. He was acting different, not colder and not cruel, just different. He was too careful, too distant, too polite in a way that didn't feel like him. My gut kept nudging me to check his phone, and believe me when I say I never had, not once in 6 years. That's how much I trusted him. But that night, something broke inside of me, or maybe something finally woke up. I waited until he fell asleep next to me, and I unlocked his phone with a code I'd known for years but never used. I opened up his chats with my hands shaking. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for, and then I saw her name, his coworker. I knew they were friendly, he'd mentioned her before, but always so casually. I thought nothing of it, but their messages weren't casual. They were long and warm and intimate, flirty and really familiar. And there it was right in the middle of the thread, them talking about marriage. Marriage of all things. He had never ever brought that up with me. Every time I mentioned it, he would smile and say that he just wasn't ready, that it was something he'd take seriously when the time came. One time he said to me, oh, I'll propose when I'm really sure. And I remember it so clearly because it hurt, but I respected it. But he was sure enough with her though. I didn't wake him up, I just sat there all night staring at those images, trying to understand how someone could hold your heart in their hands for 6 years and then just misplace it like that. When he finally woke up and saw my face, he knew exactly what was going on. He didn't even try to deny it. He just started apologizing over and over, said he'd been close with her for about 4 months, but it didn't mean anything and he didn't want to lose me. He begged me not to walk away. He said he still loved me, that it was just a mistake. But how do you accidentally talk about a future with someone who isn't the person you've been building a life with for 6 years? And what's the worst part about all of this? She has a boyfriend too, a whole other person whose world is probably about to crash, just like mine did. He says he doesn't want to break up, but I mean, how do I stay? How do I stay with someone who made me feel like I was just a placeholder for something better? Because right now I feel incredibly lost. Okay, honestly, there's no way in the world I would ever stay with someone like that. Seriously, this is not some kind of like dramatic moment where it's like, oh, I'll stick with you. Like for me, this would be a deal breaker. This guy literally strung you along for 6 years and started sniffing around towards someone else 4 months ago. Like, I'm pretty sure I can confidently say this guy just doesn't care about you. If he cared about you, he wouldn't be cheating on you. And guess what? That's exactly what he's doing. Him talking about marriage with this other lady, yeah, that's him cheating and saying, no, I don't want to be with you anymore. And by the way, I find it kind of suspicious that he's like, oh, I don't want to lose you. But it's like, dude, if you didn't want to lose her, then why did you entertain this other lady by talking about marriage? Like, dude, you don't know her nearly as well as the person sitting right next to you. So to the original poster, I am so sorry this is happening to you. You do not deserve this. And I really hope things get better for you overall across across the board, because your boyfriend right now absolutely sucks and you deserve way better. I got some petty revenge on my vice principal at my school without breaking any rules that he could possibly identify, and I still laugh about the entire situation even to this day. Here's what I did. Too many years ago in my junior year of high school, we had a particularly nasty vice principal. For some reason, he seemed to have it in for me, constantly making critical remarks and often getting me into trouble over petty stuff. I mean, I really hated this guy. My daily walk to school involved taking a shortcut behind a liquor store a couple of blocks from my school, where the loading dock usually had stacks of boxes with empty bottles of booze. So one day, I picked one up and I took it to school. During lunch in the cafeteria, I took it out and I pretended to be drunk, to make my friends laugh. Afterwards, I tossed the bottle in the trash and I went to class, unaware that a staff member, likely a custodian, had come across it and reported it to the vice principal. The following morning, during the pre-class public address, the vice principal gave the school a stern lecture about alcoholism and the consequences of being caught with alcohol or being intoxicated, which included suspension. It was then that I realized I had inadvertently found a way to cause him some grief without actually breaking any rules. So, over the next few days, I started collecting more small, empty liquor bottles and hiding them in various inconspicuous places around the school and the grounds, like the bathrooms, the changing rooms, empty lockers, janitor closets, auditorium stage, and the track and field storage box. I even snuck one into the teacher's lounge. In the days that followed, it was quite something to witness the school administration descend into near panic. At one point, they even initiated a partial school lockdown as teachers and staff tried to identify the drunk student or students. Well, as a 15-year-old, I don't think I'd ever laughed so hard. I'm pretty sure the vice principal heard some rumors and suspected it was me, but he could never prove it, and technically, I hadn't broken any rules that I was aware of. And that really was my first taste of the pleasure of messing with people that I disliked. Oh man, that's really funny. You definitely should not do that if you're listening, by the way. That's a bad idea and you're gonna get in trouble. And I think the original poster got incredibly lucky, let's be honest here. But I do find this a funny way to get back at this vice principal, especially one that really seems like they have it out for you, because that really is super obnoxious. Would I be the jerk if I called out my husband's family for intentionally neglecting my husband while he was graduating and earning a degree that he worked incredibly hard for? Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that my husband's family is very close. He has a few brothers and they do nearly everything together. My husband left home for his career, and I personally feel as though his family has always resented him for that. Within the last few years, my husband's career brought us closer to both of our families, so we have been able to visit more often. And for us, this means driving a few hours a few weekends a month to spend time with both families. And I can count on one hand the amount of times his family has driven to us. Granted, both of our families live close, so often it's easier for us to come to them, but regardless, we do a lot of driving. Now, on to the issue at hand. My husband has been working very hard at his education. He recently earned a degree and wanted to attend his graduation in another state. We have known about this graduation for months and let each family member know all of the details. His family never confirmed their attendance, and they just danced around the topic for a while. Fast forward to the graduation, and only a few family members attended and hardly even spent time with us while in this other state. His family gave excuses like, oh, we have to work, or they'll be like, oh, it's too far away. However, the weekend right after the graduation, they all got into their cars and drove multiple hours through the night to attend a birthday party for a family member whom, by the way, they haven't even seen in years, and they only got the invitation 2 weeks prior to the event. Well, this is extremely upsetting to me as I sit back and watch my husband fulfill major accomplishments in his life with little to no support from his immediate family. He does so much for them in terms of support and love, but it feels as though it's not reciprocated. I know they love him, but this seems selfish and mean to do that to him. He would never speak on it to them because that's just not how they communicate, but I really want to call them out on it. Ask them why they would do this to him and make him feel as though his accomplishments don't matter, or that a random family member they haven't seen in years deserves their time, but he doesn't. So would I be the jerk if I called them out? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I can see both sides of this, but in my opinion, it just doesn't seem worth it. These people seem like the kind of people who would literally resent you forever for doing that. And sure, you want to support your husband, but also it's like, well, wait a second. This could end really badly because these people could easily turn this against you forever. So no, you're not the jerk in this situation because his family sounds like absolute garbage human beings. My neighbor ran over the trash he kept piling up at my door, as he would constantly put it there as he didn't want to deal with it in his garage. But I'm honestly so glad that I got some petty revenge on this guy by literally forcing him to pick up all the garbage that he trashed all across the parking lot, simply because he wasn't paying attention. Here's how it went down. Okay, so I live in a small studio apartment, and due to the layout of the building, my whole apartment is directly above the downstairs neighbor's neighbor's garage. Now, I picked the apartment because I have a large dog with a lot of energy, and I didn't want to have anyone living below me. And trust me, this was a massive mistake. The downstairs neighbors keep finding new ways to disrupt my daily life. In the winter, he would warm up his truck in his garage for 30 minutes with the radio cranked so loud it rattled my dishes in the cabinet. He would then leave his garage open all day, making it harder to hear in my apartment. And he would do the same thing in the summer. He just leaves the door open all day, which is against building rules by the way, making it almost impossible to cool down my apartment. And on top of that, instead of putting his garbage outside his apartment door, he likes it up on my doorstep because he stores his garbage cans in the garage. At least once a week, I find his garbage blocking my door. I've spoken to him and building management several times, but still, nothing's changed. But finally, this weekend was my breaking point. He had some party on Saturday, and I came home to my door literally being blocked by a half a dozen overflowing bags of cans, as well as some bottles and a lot of garbage. So I took all of them and I stacked them in front of his garage door. And I set them up in such a way where they would tip over when he opened the door, so he would absolutely have to grab them. Well, instead, he must not have noticed and just backed out of his garage and dragged garbage all over the parking lot. I then got to watch him spend a good 30 minutes picking it all up and rebagging it before he could finally leave. So hopefully this means no more garbage piled up at my door, because this guy is truly obnoxious to deal with. Dude, what that guy's doing is like a fire hazard. What is he thinking? You can't block someone's door with garbage. Also, why on earth is he putting it in front of your door? Like, that's really dumb and it feels super targeted. So I think with all things considered, you probably could have gone a lot harder on this guy, but I don't blame you for just doing that, because it seems like he worked out his karma in a roundabout way on his own. My best friend confessed to me that she is actively cheating on her fiance all before their wedding, saying that she's gonna cut off their affair partner before the wedding, thus making everything fine in her mind. But after she told me this information, I decided to back out as her maid of honor. And now she's saying that I'm betraying her trust and that I'm being a judgmental jerk for what she's choosing to do. And at this point, I'm honestly blown away and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. If you want to share your own stories, check the link in the description and submit them, because we would love to hear what you have to say. Let's get started. Okay, so this has been eating at me and I honestly don't know if I'm doing the right thing or just being dramatic. My best friend and I have been super close for over a decade. We grew up together but now live in different states. She's been in a relationship with her girlfriend for 5 years, and a few months ago they got engaged. And of course, she asked me to be her maid of honor and I said yes, no hesitation. I was genuinely happy for her, but then things got complicated. Not long after the engagement, she started confiding in me, telling me that she had been cheating on her fiance. And not like a one-night mistake. This has been a full-on secret relationship that's been going on for a while. She told me she felt guilty and knew it was wrong, and she also shared a lot of issues in her current relationship, saying she was thinking about ending things. I didn't agree with what she was doing, but I figured she was processing everything and trying to get to a place where she could break up and be honest. I tried to be supportive while encouraging her to face it. Well, fast forward to now, and it's been months and she is still with her fiance. Nothing's changed. In fact, she's now planning the wedding like everything's perfect. We're all supposed to be home for the holidays and hang out with our old high school friend group, including her fiance, and I honestly just can't do it. I haven't seen her fiance since I found out about all of this, and I feel sick thinking about pretending everything's fine. I mean, I did not sign up to carry this kind of secret. So I called my friend and gently told her that I care about her, but I'm not okay being involved like this, and I can't be her maid of honor knowing what I know. I said I'm not comfortable being around the two of them as a couple unless something changes, and I wasn't mean, I was just honest. Well, when I said that, she flipped out. She said I was a terrible friend, said that I betrayed her confidence, and that she never would have told me anything if she knew I judge her like this. But I told her I haven't told anyone, and I wouldn't, like that's not the issue. But if she's asking me to smile and stand by her at a wedding that's built on a lie, well, I just can't do that. That's when she admitted she never planned on telling her fiance and still fully intends to marry her. She thinks as long as she's cut off the affair before the wedding and no one ever finds out, it's fine and everyone's happy. And I was honestly shocked, and I had no idea she was going to just move on like nothing happened. It feels so wrong to me. It still does. Now she won't talk to me, and I'm pretty sure our friendship is done. I didn't want to lose her, but I also can't be a part of this lie. It hurts so much, and honestly, right now, I don't know what to do. Dude, this is messed up. Like, seriously. Your best friend is cheating on their fiance, like, actively right now, and they think it's gonna be okay just to cut them off and move on like nothing happened? Like, what are you talking about? The fiance in the story deserves to know. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you should go do that because you know the situation way better than I do, or way better than anyone listening, but I know if this were me, I 100% would go up to them and be like, look, they're cheating on you. And I would tell them everything. Like, dude, there is no loyalty when it comes to that. There's no excuse and there's no sympathy. You can't just do that to someone and expect to get away with it. Like, that's messed up. So no, you are definitely not the jerk for backing out of this wedding, because I'm pretty sure any rational person would be like, yeah, I'm not going to be a part of this. And the fact that she's trying to guilt trip you over this is just completely uncalled for. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My dad has banned me from my younger siblings' lives, all because I wouldn't meet him on his terms. But after dealing with his awful attitude and behavior for my entire life, I now feel like I'm at my breaking point and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 31-year-old male and I was raised mostly by my grandparents. My mom lived with us, but she was verbally awful and somewhat absent. And my dad never lived with me and wasn't involved in my day-to-day life. He and my mom never married, and I lived only with my grandparents starting in the 10th grade. My dad had custody of my younger half-brother and eventually married my second stepmom, who had 2 kids of her own. Together, they also had 2 younger children who are now 13 and 8 years old. Growing up, my dad rarely showed up for any sports games, school events, or even Father's Day. He rarely contributed financially. In fact, I found out when I was 18 years old that he had been failing to keep up with his child support, and when I confronted him about it, he blew up on me and said he wished he never met my mom. He then ghosted me for 6 months until I reached out again on his birthday trying to be the bigger person. From my late teens through my 20s, I was always the one initiating contact. Despite moving almost 2 hours away for university, I was the one planning visits, buying gifts for his younger kids, reaching out for birthdays, holidays, etc. He rarely reciprocated. I've only ever been invited to a few things. When I moved out in 2021 with my partner, I started pulling back a bit. And at that point, I had also started therapy for physical and mental health issues and began unpacking a lot of family drama. My half-brother went no contact with him 5 years ago and moved out due to the physical and verbal mistreatment. And I also found out that similar things happened with his first stepmom and my mom. Knowing this, I didn't feel safe being emotionally vulnerable with him, especially because he tends to lash out when confronted. In 2023, I reached out to make Christmas plans like I always do, and my stepmom said my dad was sick. I followed up a few weeks later offering to drop off gifts for the kids, but I didn't get a response for another month. When my dad finally replied, it was out of the blue. He said my stepsister and him got into an argument, and she made a comment that I wanted nothing to do with him, and then texted me to say, have a nice life. I clarified that I never said that, and I tried to have a real conversation about how distant our relationship has been. I asked if we could meet one-on-one, and he said he would get back to me. I also asked what happened between them, but he wouldn't tell me. Well, shortly after, I found out my stepsister had called 911 on him for how he was treating the youngest kids, which is what started this entire argument. He also sent a really scary message to my half-brother, you know, the one that went no contact, saying that he'd show up at his work and fight him. And my other stepbrother, who's 29, exchanged a lot of words with my dad as well. But when I asked my stepmom what was going on, she claimed to know nothing. I suggested to talk as a family to put an end to all of this, but none of my siblings were down. And I asked my dad to let me know his schedule, just so we can meet up for a one-on-one. Also, so I could invite him to come over to my place, since he, my 2 step-siblings, and my 2 youngest half-siblings all live together under my stepmother's roof. And to that, my dad just said he would let me know. Well, 9 months went by and I didn't hear from him. I then found out that I wasn't invited to my youngest sibling's birthday, which was a first. Even my step-siblings, who have never gotten along with my dad, still got invites. And prior to this, my half-brother, who went no contact, would also get an invite. When I asked my dad and stepmom why, my dad told me that he said not to invite me. I said that made no sense, considering I had been reaching out to still wish happy birthdays, holidays, Mother's and Father's Days to them, while waiting for him to get back to me, and he just never did. Eventually, my stepmom offered to schedule a meeting with just the 3 of us. My dad agreed and then tried to cancel behind her back so she wouldn't be there, and instead asked when I can meet with him one-on-one. Well, I refused to change the date since he never got back to me last time for 9 months, and the only time he tried to meet up was twice before. Once he messaged me near midnight to meet up first thing in the morning, and another time after I called him out about the birthday, he asked if I can meet the same day during work hours. So when I said let's just stick to the plan with my stepmom, he flipped out. He berated me, threatened me, called me names, and you know what? I just blocked him. My stepmom said she understood and offered to bring the kids to visit visit me instead so I could still give them their Christmas gifts, because by this time it was almost Christmas of 2024. But days before the visit, she told me my dad forbade her from letting me see the kids and that he was cutting me off until I was man enough to speak to him, because I had asked to meet and for him to let me know his schedule, so we could plan a date in advance multiple times, and he just kept ghosting me or suggesting impossible times. Since then, my stepmom has chosen to side with him. She admitted that he was wrong, but said that she wouldn't argue with him either, so I stopped reaching out to them. I didn't message her Happy Mother's Day or either of them Happy Birthday this year at all. To clarify, I'm still open to speaking with my stepmom. She's reached out to me a few times via text messaging, which was a few months after all of this went down, just to send me pictures of my youngest half-siblings, and we have talked, but I'm just so exhausted from all of this, and then pretending like nothing has happened. So right now, I'm honestly feeling so distraught, and I just don't know what to do. Oh man, honestly, it kind of seems like you've done everything you can do in this situation, and I don't blame you for going no contact with your dad at all. Like, he does sound like a piece of work, and it seems like he just doesn't care. He's not willing to make time for you, and he's just not willing to be a dad for you. So in that regards, I'm so sorry that this is going on, and hopefully you find some kind of resolution to this, because this sounds incredibly frustrating to deal with. Am I the jerk for being selfish and considering my dream job offer, even though it would uproot my life and my fiance's life in the process? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 27-year-old female, and I've been with my fiance, who we will call Kate, for almost 3 years. I finished a degree in engineering. However, my dream has always been to work in fashion, but I wanted a safe fallback career in case fashion didn't work out. I've run a fashion blog since university, and over the past few months blown up and have a small following. Now, Kate has always been supportive of this, and I have told her before that if offered a job in fashion, I would take it. Well, I got offered an internship for a big name in fashion media after someone came across my blog, and got told I can have a week to review the offer. It would be a big pay cut as an intern from my current job. However, it can convert to a full-time offer if I impress them, and it is also in a different city. Now, my sister lives there, and she would be okay with me staying over, plus the intern salary would cover all of my expenses. I told Kate about the offer last night after I had spoken to my sister, and you know what? She was really upset. If I take the offer, I have to move, and Kate doesn't like my sister's city as it is way more expensive than ours and knows no one there. She also got upset that I had sorted out where I was living before telling her. But the thing is, I only texted my sister to ask and not as a way of confirming anything. But she was pissed off that she didn't know first. She called me selfish, but I tried to tell her that I hate my job and I want to break into this industry. I have some savings and I don't want to regret turning this offer down. Kate thinks I'm selfish for only thinking about myself when considering this offer, as she earns a little less than me and can't afford to pay rent by herself if we are long distance, and all of her friends and family are near our city. She also thinks there's no guaranteed job at the end of this, and it could wipe all of our savings for our wedding, on top of the fact that she thinks there's no guarantee that I could get my old engineering job back. So am I being selfish right now, or is this something I really need to pursue? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, on one hand, I really can't blame you for being like, oh my gosh, this is my dream job, I want to do this so badly. But on the other hand, you do have a fiance. Seriously, that is part of the equation. Any decision that you make really has to kind of go through her first and be like, does this align with our plans? And I get it, you're excited, this is your dream job, but I think the order of operations here should have been like, look, Kate, I have this really cool opportunity. I really want to try and do this. Can we make this work? And then you work with her first instead of going to your sister. I completely understand where Kate's coming from in this regard. She really should have been the first person to find out about this. And she should have been the person to be like, yeah, let's figure this out and see if we can make it work. Now, I'm not saying Kate's right for being like, you're ruining everything. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Because I know for a fact that if my partner came up to me and said, hey, I've got this big opportunity for my dream job, I would make it work. I would figure out how to make that work because I love and care about them. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for being passionate and being excited about this dream job, but I think the way you went about doing this, in my opinion, was completely out of order. Am I the jerk for refusing to lend my laptop to my younger brother, who has a clear history of breaking laptops that he's given? Because right now my parents are pissed off, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 23-year-old female, and I have a 14-year-old younger brother. For context, I got my first laptop when I started college to study civil engineering. It was a 2-in-1 office laptop that also worked as a tablet. I only had it for less than a semester before the pandemic hit, and my parents decided to give it to my younger brother for online classes. After that, they got me a Dell G3. But then, fast forward a year later, and he broke the first laptop, so they gave him my Dell. But then, they bought me the one that I currently have. And now, as you can probably guess, he's managed to ruin the Dell as well. My parents are asking me to lend him my current laptop for just 2 weeks, while they buy him a new one, but I said know, and now everyone's upset with me. The thing is, my current laptop has all of my thesis work for graduation and personal files on it. I really can't afford to lose or damage anything. My brother has a track record. He's destroyed 2 laptops in under 5 years, lost 2 original chargers, and we're not even sure how careful he is with his stuff at school. For all I know, he's throwing it around or letting classmates mess with it. My laptop cost over $1,000, and the one they're planning to buy him costs around $800. My parents told me if he ruins mine, then they'll give me the new one, but mine is clearly better performance-wise, and that trade just doesn't seem fair. I don't want to risk losing my work or ending up with a downgrade, but now my family is acting like I'm being selfish and not helping out when it's just for 2 weeks. But I feel like I'm just protecting something that is important to me. So am I the jerk for saying no to this? Because right now I'm very frustrated. Dude, there is no way I would ever hand over that laptop. First of all, you better find a good hiding space for it, because you can bet they're gonna take that from you the second you take your eyes off it. This kid has broken not 1, but 2 laptops. Like, why would anybody think it's reasonable to loan him anything at this point? He's irresponsible, he doesn't care, and your college work is on that, dude. Like, your entire graduation could depend on that laptop. So no, you are not the jerk for turning him down, because trust me, if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. My job is constantly making me do more and more work, while also showing me little to no appreciation for my efforts. And now, after one of my coworkers repeatedly told me to hurry up on the job, I finally snapped and I put them in their place. And now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 27-year-old male, and I've been working in a cafe for almost 6 years now. Technically, my position is utility cleaning, but I also do cooking and serving. I'm responsible for making sure the dishes are all washed. I have to make sure the kitchen and dining room and outside patios are all clean. I have to take the large box bin out to the trash compactor whenever it's full. I get orders downstairs whenever they come in. I assist with prepping food, and I also cook and serve food. There's 6 of us on the team, including the manager, and I honestly feel like we could use another person because I feel like we're all overworked and stretched thin. But obviously, they don't want to spend the money to hire another person. Well, our manager was on vacation last week, and the team lead, who is a 50-year-old female, took charge. I try to go back and forth between making sure all of my dishes in the kitchen are clean, the kitchen itself is clean, boxes are taken out, and anything I need to prep gets done in addition to going out front and cooking and serving customers. Sometimes the manager will try to give me a hand when he's able to, but since he was on vacation, I was pretty much on my own. I try to multitask to get all of my duties completed throughout the day so I can leave on time, but a lot of the times I have to stay over to make sure my work gets done. But also, the higher-ups have been getting on us about overtime, so I have to try my best to leave on time. I felt like last week I was being rushed and not being shown appreciation for the work I was putting in. I tried to go back and forth to complete things from the kitchen as well as out front, and while I'm back in the kitchen trying to get things done, my 4 coworkers have to hold down the line while I'm trying to complete things in the back. However, the team lead was rushing me to get things done in the kitchen, telling me to hurry up and whatnot. Well, yesterday we were going to have some inspectors inspect our cafe, and I tried cleaning, but the team lead pointed out to me to make sure after I make mashed potatoes in the kitchen to clean up after myself and don't leave it messy. She said I left it messy back there the other day and that she had to clean it up. Now, I will admit I was in a rush that day to make some more mashed potatoes and to try and get out front in a timely manner. I mean, I was prioritizing that. I was eventually going to clean up my mess in the kitchen, but she emphasized to clean it as I go. She also told me to make sure the carts are clean. I also had dishes that needed to be put away, and I did all of this, and it took me about 45 minutes to complete this. When I headed out front to help out there, the team lead goes, "Oh, finally." So I respond back by going, "Finally? You say that like I've been back there all day." She then said to me, "I felt like you were back there for a long time." So I told her, well, I made mashed potatoes, I cleaned up after myself like you told me to, and I put the dishes away, and I cleaned the carts. I felt like I did everything in a timely manner. And then, out of nowhere, here comes my coworker, a 24-year-old male, with an attitude that just honestly doesn't make sense. He tells me, "You need to hurry up." I looked at him and I said, "Hurry up with what?" He said, "Back there." I told him everything's done back there, but he said it again, "You need to hurry up." And at this point, I got heated. I told him, "You need to chill the F out. Don't talk to me like that. I've been respectful to everybody here since I began working here, and I expect the same in return. Chill out." Well, he didn't say anything else after that, or to me for the rest of the day for that matter. I mean, everybody looked stunned, and my coworker even told me that she wasn't expecting that from me at all. But you know what? I was pissed. I feel like I'm working very hard and I do a lot. I felt like I was being rushed and not being shown any appreciation for the work I was putting in. I did not like my coworker's attitude and how he was speaking to me. When my manager comes back Monday, I'm going to discuss with him everything that unfolded. But all in all, am I wrong for this? Am I in the wrong for for telling my coworker to chill out and for exploding on them, because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first off, I kind of see myself in this situation because I've been there. Like, I don't know about you, but if you've had like a job where you feel like you're doing everything and you still have idiot coworkers being like, you need to hurry up, you're not doing enough. Meanwhile, they're not doing nearly the amount of work that you're doing on a daily basis. Like, that is so unbelievably frustrating. For me, when I was dealing with that in my previous job, I felt like I was going crazy. I was like, what is going on right now? I am doing everything around here to make sure things are like on time and working. And not only am I not getting any appreciation, but people are treating me like I'm going slow or something like that, which is just not the case. Like, that really was not the case. And I'm willing to bet that wasn't the case for you either. So personally, I'm super happy that you shut this guy down because he absolutely needed to be shut down. He was completely out of line, walking up to you and being like, wow, you need to hurry up, you're not going fast enough, when you literally do everything around that place. If you left tomorrow, they would be in so much trouble. You have so much knowledge of like what needs to get done. They would probably have to bring someone in from corporate to train someone on how to do it right. And it's just so typical that the manager's like, oh no, we're not going to hire anybody. And it's like, yeah, of course not, because you're getting all this easy labor from me. Meanwhile, the original poster is working themselves to the bone trying to keep up. So no, you're not the jerk for exploding on them. You didn't do anything wrong. And in my opinion, I would start looking for another job because these people do not deserve your work ethic and you could do so much better than these idiots. Am I overreacting for refusing to let my wife's work husband come with us to our family vacation? Because right now I feel like this is crossing a big line and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my wife and I have been married for 8 years and we have 2 kids together. She recently started a new job where she's gotten really close to one of her coworkers. She calls him her work husband and says it's all jokes and office banter and that it's nothing serious. Now, at first I brushed it off, but over time she started texting him outside of work hours, laughing at his jokes constantly, and even FaceTiming him once when we were on a weekend trip with our kids. Well, I finally told her it was getting weird and she told me to stop being insecure. Well, last week she asked if he could come with us on our summer vacation to the lake house. She said to me that he has no family around and could use a break. But you know what? I said absolutely not. This is our family time and I don't want some random guy tagging along, especially someone that she flirts with all day. When I said this, she got mad and said that I was being controlling. Her exact words were to say, I'm not even allowed to have friends now. But I told her that it's not about friends, it's about boundaries. Well, now she's mad and says I embarrassed her by making a big deal out of nothing. So seriously, at this point, am I overreacting? Am I in the wrong for not letting my wife invite her work husband to our family trip? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say this as honestly as I can. This feels incredibly sketchy and I don't blame you for saying no. Some of the other comments in this post pretty much echo this, but I'm just gonna say this upright. I think the whole work culture thing of like, oh, this is my work husband or my work wife. Like, I find that creepy and weird. It's like, dude, no, you are not my work wife. I don't know you like that. Just because we work together every day doesn't mean I don't have a relationship that I actually want to be faithful to. And it kind of sounds like your wife is a little bit closer than I would even be comfortable in this situation. Like, seriously, this feels incredibly inappropriate and I don't blame you for putting your foot down, because this certainly seems like a recipe for absolute disaster. My boyfriend demanded that I pay for the $600 check for his birthday party, even though he literally didn't tell me about this in advance and was just expecting me to pay for it right there on the spot. So I decided the very next day to break up with him, as I felt completely used and humiliated in the worst way possible, resulting in some of my friends calling me selfish and saying that I'm the jerk. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Let's get started. Okay, so my boyfriend planned a birthday dinner for himself at this kind of pricey restaurant. He invited a big group of like 12 people, mostly his friends and his cousins. Now, I didn't have a say in the guest list or the place, but I was happy to be there for him. Now, I've always had a bit more money than him, and I honestly don't mind covering small things here and there. I paid for his birthday cake, and I even got him a gift that I knew he would love. Now, I was fully planning on paying for his meal, and that felt really fair to me. But when the check came for over $600, which is way too high even for me, he just looked at me and said, "You've got it right." And he said this in front of everyone. No warning, no heads up. He didn't even ask me. Like, he almost said this as if he was expecting it. And I was so completely caught off guard. I quietly told him I wasn't comfortable paying for everyone, and he got super cold and a bit mad at me. He said I was making a scene, even though I barely said anything. And you know what? Some people at the table looked just as confused as I felt. Well, I paid for his dinner, I left money for the cake, and then I went home. And I even cried in the Uber because I felt so used. He then texted me saying that I embarrassed him, and I told him it wasn't okay to put me in that position without even asking first. And you know what? The following day, I broke up with him. And now some of of his friends are messaging me, calling me selfish. Right now I feel awful, but I also feel like I was treated like a walking wallet. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, your boyfriend is super toxic. So let me get this straight. This guy plans his own birthday party. He goes to this really fancy and expensive restaurant. He leaves you out of all of the planning, and then he tries to be like, oh yeah, you're gonna pay for everything, right? Like, I don't know about you, but $600 is way too much for anything like that. Like, I bring a little bit extra in case it does cost more, but I don't know anyone who's got like $600 just laying around in their wallet where they're like, oh yeah, I could pay for it, don't worry about it. Like, holy crap, your boyfriend is awful. He seriously sprung this on you in front of everyone. Like, dude, what is happening right now? The original poster actually says in the comment section of this post that this day was when they finally realized that their boyfriend was using them, and it kind of made them reflect on how much that was happening in their relationship. So truly, I think this was a good thing. I think breaking up with him was like the best option for you, because what this guy expected of you was crazy, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My ex broke up with me and took my dog with me, so I got revenge by clearing out our joint bank account and simply waited, knowing that she would come back to me begging to get any of that money back, resulting in her exchanging the money for my dog. Here's how I did it. So my ex and I have been having a really hard time lately. She decided she wanted to go back to her ex and has been a jerk ever since then. We broke up and now she wants everything including the dog, which is, by the way, the very dog that she never even wanted in the first place. And sure, she loves the dog too, but she never walked him, she hated cleaning up his little surprises here and there, and literally just never put the legwork in. I wanted the dog, plus I trained him and paid for professional training, so I took responsibility for him and we've been buddies ever since then. Well, the problem is that she wants to move out and wants half of everything. We weren't even married, so it's like, what are you talking about? Anyways, the house is a rental, but I always paid for it, and I was living here before we even started dating. So no, not today, girl. She also wanted to move in with her ex because he lives with his parents, but also not today. So what did she do, you might be asking? She managed to get inside without being seen by the cameras, since she knows the dead angles, and got into the backyard and called for the dogs. But it's like, how dumb do you have to be to hide from the cameras but then scream his name? Like, the cameras also record sound, idiot. So I just went to the police station and they said they couldn't do anything because we are not married, and there's no evidence that we actually broke up or that she entered the house illegally. So I went to her parents' house looking for the dog, you know, since she didn't reply to my messages, and my buddy actually heard me and immediately started barking and trying to come in my direction. But her mom didn't want to open the door completely, so he couldn't get to me, and even closed the door mid-conversation, so I couldn't get the dog. But you know what? No worries. We had a joint bank account with some savings that we both invested in, even though I invested 80% or more, and we had agreed to split it 50-50. So no dog, no money. I then transferred all that money into a crypto wallet and I waited 2 days. Well, all of a sudden, she remembered my number and asked what happened to the money. But I told her I invested it in crypto, but I could cash it out, and then I gave her a choice. She could choose between getting the money back or keeping the dog. And you know what? Suddenly she agreed to give me back my dog. And so she did. So thankfully that's taken care of. And I also made sure that there are no more dead angles at my home, because you better believe I don't want her showing up anytime soon. Wow, your ex is a piece of garbage. Like, seriously, she probably only took the dog out of spite just to try and like get back at you in some way. And that is so messed up. You really did not deserve that. So good for you for like negotiating things down and making sure she really wanted to make that choice, because you can obviously see her true colors the second money was on the table, because obviously that's all she ever really wanted. Am I the jerk for not carpooling with my coworker anymore after she was disrespectful and extremely late every single time? Because now she's talking bad about me to all of our teammates at work, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. About 7 months ago, I started working at a company where I met a teammate who lives on the same road I take to work. For reference, it takes about 45 minutes without traffic for me to get there. Well, we started carpooling, where I would be at her house at nearly 7 o'clock in the morning. However, she would usually still be asleep by the time I get to her house. So, because I did not like being late for work, I started calling her 15 minutes earlier just so she would get ready. However, even then, she would still be late. Mind you, she paid me an agreed amount the beginning of each month. Now, that did not bother me until she started going to work on some days with this other coworker with whom she apparently liked for fun, although he clearly had feelings for her. She would not always tell me when she'll be coming with me, and I had to call her every morning, which I did not like doing. Moreover, she would not be ready on my days, but then I catch her ready to go early in the morning whenever she has to go with him, which I really did not like. And you know what? It just started bothering me. To add more spice to the story, the dude had an accident and wanted to fix his car, so she would need a ride. Well, she did not tell me that. Instead, she masked it with this little hint of saying, "Oh, I missed you. I think I will be coming with you from now on," which really upset me the most. But now, after that happened, I decided to stop the carpool thing, and I told her that I don't want that to ruin our friendship. She said to me, "What you did is really crappy, and I don't want to be friends with you anymore." To which I just replied by saying, "Yeah, okay, whatever you want." And now, I don't know how the whole situation would be from her point of view, but I can't see in what way she would make me out to be a bad friend, because that's what she told our teammates at work. So please, can somebody give me some insight here? Am I the jerk or is she at fault? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Dude, you are definitely not the jerk. She literally didn't care about you carpooling with her at all. You had to call her every single morning, but then when that boy's picking her up, she's conveniently on time and like ready to go. It's like, what are you talking about? This is so stupid. She's unreliable, and it sounds like she's one of those drama queens where nothing's ever her fault, and if you ever supposedly betray her, she's gonna talk bad about you at the drop of a hat. So I can honestly say, if I had a friend like that, I would drop them to the curb and be like, "Oh, you don't want to be friends anymore? Well, fantastic. I didn't want to put up with this crap anyways. See ya." Because in my opinion, you deserve way better than this, and I think your friend is a spoiled rotten brat. Am I the jerk for buying a mini fridge and locking it up so that I can protect my lunch from getting stolen at work? Because after 5 times of having my lunch stolen, I'm literally at my breaking point and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 34-year-old male and I work in a small office with about 10 people, and we share a communal kitchen including one fridge. Over the past month, my lunch has been stolen 5 times. Not just random snacks, like the entire homemade meals that I bring from home are just completely gone without a trace. It's not just frustrating, it's expensive and messes up my day. I mentioned it a couple of times in the group chat by saying, "Hey, someone's been taking my lunches, please stop." And everyone either ignored it or sent vague messages, saying stuff like, "Oh, that sucks. Some people are the worst." But no one took any responsibility. So I decided to buy a mini fridge and I put it under my desk. Nothing fancy, just enough to hold my meal and a drink. On top of that, I also put a lock on it just for extra peace of mind. And since then, no one has ever stole my lunches. Well, last Friday, one of my coworkers, who we will call Diana for the sake of the story, confronted me during lunch and said it was weird and selfish that I had a personal fridge. She said it made me look paranoid and not part of the team. But I said I was tired of my food being stolen, and this was the only solution that worked. She said I should have just bought stuff I wouldn't care about losing, like snacks or microwave meals, if I was so worried. A couple of others have now made little comments by saying, "Don't let him see your lunch, he might lock it up." Or just say, "We get it, you're special." And I'm starting to feel like the weirdo of the office just for protecting my stuff. So seriously, am I the jerk here or is there something else going on? Because I seriously do not know what to do. Oh my gosh, I think you found exactly who's like stealing your lunch. This Diana lady's clearly the person who did it. Like seriously, for starters, how can no one be like, "Wait a second, this is the 5th time you've lost your lunch? Who's doing it?" Like we need to figure out who's doing that and make it stop. There's only 10 people on the crew, by the way, so it's like, come on, someone's gotta figure out exactly what's happening. That or it's some kind of like organized effort to mess with your only lunch break. Like seriously, what's going on right now? So for Diana to walk up and be like, "Oh, you look so paranoid. You need to bring stuff you're not afraid of losing." What she's really saying is, please bring stuff that I can continue to steal because right now I don't have a lunch. Because in my opinion, Diana sounds really hungry, and I really think it's obvious that she's the one who's actually not part of the team and is just pissed off that she doesn't get a free lunch anymore. An entitled jerk blocks my parking space and decides to get violent the second I tell him to move. So as a result, I decided to get some revenge by taking his information off the internet and applying for jobs on his behalf that he most definitely was not looking to work at. Here's what I did. A few years ago, my mother-in-law flew in from across the country to visit my fiance and I for a week. We live in an apartment in a busy part of downtown Vancouver, and our garage opens into an alley right next to the entrance of a liquor store. And as a result, we are often blocked in by people when trying to get home or even just to leave. We've gotten into a few screaming matches with people before, but this one was my favorite and probably the worst as well. We were coming back pretty late in the evening, maybe at around 9 o'clock p.m., and this guy, who we will call Christopher, had parked right in front of our garage door and went into the liquor store to buy some booze. When he came back out and saw us in our vehicle waiting for him to move so that we could park and be home, he made some snotty comment. And it's the kind of comment that you couldn't hear while still in our vehicle. And then he got into his car. Now we thought he would drive away, but he just sat there, opened up a can of beer and drank it while looking at us and laughing. So I get out of the vehicle, I walked over to him, and I politely, and honestly I said this politely, asked him to move so that we can get inside. Well, he basically responded by telling me to go F myself and that he would do what he he wanted. I tried to explain that he was blocking our garage, and I asked him if he could just move up a bit so that we could get in. Well, this escalated really quickly. He got out of the car and got really into my face. Now me, still not wanting to play out this situation in front of my future mother-in-law, stayed calm and just kept asking him to please get back into his car and leave. Eventually he started pushing me, clearly trying to start a fight, so I just called the police. While I was on the phone with them, he had put himself and his face centimeters away from mine. I stepped back and I put my arm out, while still on the phone mind you, and he walked right into it. He then started screaming about how I was hitting him and how he needed police help right now. Because we were right downtown, the police arrived within a minute from when I had made the call, still on the phone with the operator the entire time. Well, as soon as they arrived, he changed his tone and attitude completely. He started telling them a sob story about how I had approached him in his vehicle and said some mean things to him. But luckily, my fiance and future mother-in-law were still in the car and completely backed up my story. He was also parked illegally in front of my parking garage, so the police quickly took my side and demanded that he leave. Now, as he got back into his car, the police noticed his open beer in the console and immediately got him back out of the car and demanded that he perform a breathalyzer test. Now, unfortunately, he had finished the can before getting out, so he claimed that he had found the can on the road and was planning to bring it in for the 5-cent deposit. His alcohol level was below the legal limit for driving, so the police couldn't do anything to charge him with a DUI. The police stayed until he left, but the last thing he did before driving away was throw his business card out the window at me and then say to me, "Oh, you don't know who you're messing with." Well, I picked it up as he was driving away, already starting to plan my revenge, although with no idea of what I could do with his information. The next day, I looked Christopher up, and it turns out that he was a freelance graphic designer. He has his own website with a bunch of his completed projects and his full PDF downloadable resume. So I downloaded his resume and I got to work. At this point, I then started applying for jobs on Christopher's behalf. I had his real phone number, real address, and a real full resume. And you know what? He applied to every McDonald's in the area, every Starbucks, every grocery store, every movie theater, literally any minimum wage job that I could find with a quick and easy application process. I must have applied for like over 80 jobs for him, all using his real phone number and real resume. I kept this up for weeks, searching for more jobs whenever I had some free time. Now, unfortunately, I never got to see his face as he started getting callbacks, as he was truly more than qualified for any of these jobs. But I would like to think that for a month or two, he would receive phone calls through the week asking to set up job interviews, thinking that it was for a graphic design work, only to then be told that it was for McDonald's or Wendy's or whatever. But I will say, a few months later, I went back to his website thinking that I'd start the process again, you know, since he pulled that crap in front of my fiance and future mother-in-law, so I was still a bit salty about it. But I was both shocked and satisfied to see that his website had been taken down, or at least moved to a new URL. And I'd like to believe that somehow this is my doing. Okay, this is some solid revenge because I'm sure that guy was losing his mind dealing with all the callbacks. And I love the fact that you did like the whole job route because you could easily just start spamming him like crazy, especially with like political or like religious emails or something like that, or even like really sketchy emails if you know what I mean. But you went the route where you know for a fact he's gonna check it and be like, oh, wait a second, maybe this is work, maybe this is a future job or something like that, only to then be immediately let down that no, it's definitely not that kind of job because he's getting a call back to work at a fast food joint, which is not a bad job, but I'm sure that's not what he's looking to do. So good for you because this guy absolutely deserved to get shut down in some kind of way. Am I the jerk for blowing up at my parents for something my adult sister did while I was setting up for my husband's birthday? Because right now they're saying that I'm being unfair, but at this point I am so frustrated with their behavior that I seriously am at such a loss. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I have a sister who I will call Amy for the sake of the story, who has always had a difficult relationship with food. Basically, she was bullied as a kid and turned to food for comfort. As an adult, she still struggles with self-control, especially around things that she finds appetizing. Our parents have never set boundaries with her around food, and that's carried into adulthood. She now currently lives with them, and they do all the grocery shopping and cooking. Well, my husband recently had a birthday, and I planned a surprise party. I sent him out of the house for a few hours so that I could set up, and I asked my parents to come and help. Now, I specifically asked them not to bring Amy, as setting up involved putting out snacks, drinks, and a homemade cake with frosting. Well, as you can probably guess, they showed up with Amy anyways, saying it wouldn't be fair to exclude her. I gave her a few small things to do, and specifically asked her not to touch any of the food until the guests arrived. But I was also too busy to keep a constant eye on her. Well, at one point, I went into the kitchen, and I found Amy with the fridge open, eating the frosting out of the mixing bowl, and she had eaten nearly half of it already. As soon as she saw me, she burst into tears and said she only meant to try a little bit, but she couldn't stop.
stop.
My parents heard us and they came in. My mom then said that it wasn't a big deal since the cake was untouched and I still had enough frosting for a crumb coat. But I had planned to do specific cake decorations, and now there wasn't enough frosting. I didn't have the time or ingredients to make more. My dad suggested going to the store to buy a tub of pre-made frosting, saying that it was basically the same thing. But I explained my husband tries to avoid a lot of the ingredients found in store-bought frosting, and he just wouldn't want that. My dad then said, well, let's just not tell him since he wouldn't even know the difference. And honestly, that suggestion was super frustrating to me. I told my parents that they couldn't convince me that this was no big deal, and that they had allowed this by not setting boundaries with Amy's binge eating and by bringing her to set up. They told me to back off and be more sensitive to my sister, and that it wasn't her fault, but I responded by saying that I was more angry at them because at least Amy felt bad while they were just trying to downplay the situation. They then got upset and said it wasn't fair to blame them for Amy's choices, and that she was an adult and they can't control her. They also said they were trying to help by giving suggestions, and that I'm being stubborn by shutting all of them down. They ended up leaving, and now they're giving me the silent treatment, even though Amy has apologized for eating the frosting. So am I the jerk for involving them in all of this? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, no, you are not the jerk here because they brought Amy in the first place. You specifically told them, hey, don't bring her along. I don't want to deal with that. I know how she is and I don't want that right now. You literally just wanted help setting up for a birthday party and they completely ruined it. And sure, this is Amy's fault if you really get down to it, but it's absolutely also the parents' fault because they didn't do anything about this sooner. So no, you're not the jerk because what your parents did, in my opinion, is unacceptable. Am I the jerk for refusing to give my sister the wedding dress I bought, even though I'm not getting married anymore? Because right now she's calling me selfish, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 29-year-old female, and I was supposed to get married last year, but my fiance and I ended up breaking things off a few months before the wedding. Now, this was mutual, there was no drama, just a realization that we weren't compatible long-term. The thing is, I had already bought myself a wedding dress custom-made that cost me nearly $4,000. And trust me, I know that's a lot, but I paid for it entirely myself, and it meant a lot to me at the time. After the breakup, I packed it up and I put it in storage. I haven't been ready to sell it or do anything with it yet, as it is still an emotional thing. Well, here's where it gets really messy. My younger sister recently got engaged, and we're not super close as we are kind of different people, and she's always been a bit entitled if I'm being completely honest. She came over a few weeks ago, saw the dress when we were organizing my storage closet, and actually asked if she could have it for her wedding. When she said this, I kind of laughed and said, no, that's mine. But when I said that, she got annoyed. She said to me, but you're not even getting married. You're just gonna let it rot in a box. I told her again, no, it's personal to me, and even though I'm not using it now, I'm not giving it away. Now, you might be thinking she would stop at this point, but no, she just kept on going. She asked if she could buy it at a discount, but I told her no, I wasn't ready to sell it. And it's here that she threw an absolute fit. She called me selfish and said I was being dramatic over a dress. Well, our mom is now involved, and she thinks I should give it to her as a gesture of sisterly love, and because according to her, it's going to waste. But I honestly feel like she's only asking because she doesn't want to pay for one herself, and she's not exactly struggling financially. So now I have my sister and my mom acting like I'm heartless and petty for not handing it over, but it feels like a boundary I just simply want to keep. So am I the jerk for refusing? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated. Wow, dude, I'm blown away. Your family's super toxic. I just can't imagine someone being so heartless and entitled to be like, oh, you're not using it. It's clearly going to waste. Give it to me at a discount, please. Like, dude, what is going on right now? This is still your wedding dress after all. Just because you're not using it now doesn't mean you won't in the future or something like that. This just really sucks in my opinion. Like, the way she's acting is just super entitled, as if she's supposed to get that now that you're not using it. So to me, it kind of makes sense why you're not super close with her. But honestly, no, you are not the jerk. Your mom and sister are completely in the wrong. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would have made the exact same decision. My dad abandoned my family after my sister passed away, choosing that instead of being my father, he's gonna travel the world with his best friend since college and avoid all responsibility involving me and my mom. But now that he's found out that I'm dying of cancer, he's trying to work his way back into my life by acting as if he cared about me from the very beginning, despite the fact that he abandoned me and literally left me until he found out I was passing away. And at this point, I'm so devastated that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 19-year-old male, and my mom and dad divorced when I was 8 years old after my older sister and only sibling passed away in a car accident. They both got into depression, and my dad couldn't take it anymore, where he then tried to unalive himself. He then, in the middle of his grief, divorced my mom and went with his best friend since college to travel and see the world. I still don't know if they're dating or not, and I simply simply stopped caring, because I don't even know if this is his way of grieving or it's just a fast escape from his marriage and family, because it's only been me and my mom ever since then. Now, my dad didn't cut all contacts with me. He called me, he sent me a message every now and then, and I guess he tried, but I'm still mad at him, because why can't he simply stay with me? It's okay for them to get a divorce, but why have I gotta stop seeing my dad only 2 years after I lost my only sister? Then he simply just vanished, and he can visit the town every 7 months, but literally that's our relationship. So a few months ago, I knew I had cancer. It's not a late stage, and the doctors tried a few times to tell me there is a high chance I will beat it, but I don't know if it's a lie or not. I feel it's something that they have to say to anyone. My mom is crying every night, which makes me even sadder, because I feel it's all my fault and I can't even help it. I'm getting medication and my friends and my mom are always with me. Well, 2 weeks ago, my dad out of nowhere called my mom, and it was literally like 2 in the morning. He was yelling and I could hear his voice crying, asking her how she couldn't just tell him that his only son has cancer. But here's the thing, she already tried to call him, but I guess he was so busy with his buddy, or was just too busy ignoring my mom. He was yelling like a maniac, telling her it was months, and if she wanted to let him know, then he would have known. After that, he went to my city, and literally he has been calling me every day to spend some time with me. He also went to go to the hospital with me, which I just completely refused, and the last time we talked was 2 days ago, and I simply told him he can't keep trying to spend time with me now after suddenly knowing that I'm dying, and instead I told him that he should just go back to his life. But now everyone in my family is somehow telling me that I'm the jerk, and that my dad has always been trying to be here for me, but he apparently had a life as well. They also said that I know he is so mentally weak right now, knowing that his only child is having cancer, as if I'm the one who should care about other people's mentality when I'm the one who has cancer. I'm so mad and even at myself, because I actually always wish to have a good relationship. I mean, his best friend even called me and told me that I shouldn't have been so harsh on my dad, and that he never forgets about me and always was seeing my life through social media. Also, I'm really scared of him hurting himself this time. He is still my dad and I still love him, but the last thing I want is for anyone to blame himself for how they treated me when I'm gone. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. Okay, dude, anybody telling you that you are somehow at fault for rejecting your dad in this moment, in my opinion, is just completely out of touch. They have not been paying attention to what's been going on in your life, nor do they care about your feelings and what you're going through. You're literally dying of cancer, and these people are trying to be like, oh, but think about your father. What would your father do right now? He's really going through a rough time. It's like, dude, he literally abandoned you and traveled the world instead of being your dad. And sure, he lost his daughter or whatever, but seriously, getting up and leaving like that is not a good response. That's no way to treat family. This is not the time to run off and have an adventure around the world. Like, I'm sorry, I don't accept that as any kind of like excuse for their grief. Like, no, that's not them having grief. That's them literally avoiding responsibility. That's them saying, hey, I'm not going to stick around and I'm not going to take care of you. See you later. Have a good life. Gotta go. It's like, how can anybody defend this right now? This is so obnoxious. So more to your point, absolutely not. You're definitely not the jerk. What you're going through is awful, and I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. And I really hope the doctors are right that yes, there is a chance you can survive this. But with all things considered, the fact that your dad walked out of your life and is now suddenly having this moment of like, oh wait, never mind, I'll be a dad. Like, that's super toxic, and I don't blame you for pushing him away. Now, do I think it should stay like that? Probably not. I think there might be a situation where like, yeah, you can let him back in and like figure things out in some kind of way, but it doesn't excuse his crappy behavior. Like, this is not an excuse for the way he's treated you, because what he did to you and your family is completely uncalled for, and you did not deserve this. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not bringing my niece shopping after she was extremely rude and mean to me, even if she gave out an apology that really was not very passionate? Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that I do not have kids, and I also have not really had a lot of experience dealing with kids before my niece. I don't have younger siblings or cousins, I never babysat, etc. And I'm explaining this because this really is my own personal blind spot. About a month ago, my niece and I were at the park together, and for the sake of the story, we'll call my niece Gabby. Now, I like to spend time with her and usually take her out to do things, just the two of us, every couple of weeks. While we were at the park, I was talking about an event I'm going to attend with my boyfriend of a few years. She then asked to see my dress, and so I showed her a picture of me in it. She made a yucky face and said, "That is so ugly. You look really fat. Isn't your boyfriend boyfriend gonna think it's bad? Now, when she said this, I was so hurt. But also, she's only 13. I'm not even a big girl in any sense. I mean, I have fat on my body, but I'm definitely not fat. My sister was surprised and said that she would talk to her. A few days later, she had Gabby come over to apologize, and from my point of view, it was not sincere. She was rolling her eyes and looked angry and just got out the words. I told her thank you for apologizing, and then I told them to leave. And you know what? I have not gone out of my way to spend time with her ever since then. I had told Gabby that I would take her shopping for the summer and that we would pick out fun stuff together. And I look forward to doing these things with her, but not really anymore. When we were at my mom's house for Mother's Day, Gabby asked me when we would go, but after her stunt, I just decided to change my mind. I said that she probably has plenty of summer clothes to wear. She then got upset and said, but I said I was sorry over and over again. I told her that I know she said she was sorry, but just because someone says they're sorry to you doesn't mean that your actions are forgiven. That you have to prove to the other person you won't do it again, and you know what? She simply hasn't. My mom and sister say I'm expecting adult behavior from a child and that it was ridiculous to cancel the shopping date, that I'm apparently beefing with a child at my big age. They said that she apologized and hasn't said anything else rude to me ever since then. They even asked me how long I'm going to hold it against her, but I really just don't know how to take this. I trust their judgment most of the time, but this was just an outright mean thing from her. I am worried that as she grows up, this behavior will continue and she will turn out to be a bully. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation, or is there something else I should do here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, no, you're definitely not the jerk. 13 years old is 100% old enough to know the difference between right and wrong, and it's definitely of age to be like, yeah, I really shouldn't say that, as well as some efforts to be a better person. It's like, dude, they're a teenager, like, come on. There are consequences to these actions. She can't just say whatever she wants and like get away with it. So no, I don't blame you for like not wanting to spend time with this kid, because at the end of the day, this is teaching her a valuable lesson that her poor actions absolutely can have lasting results. My mom signed me up for prom as someone's Make-A-Wish date, and when I found this out, I was absolutely furious. Here's how it went down. Okay, this still makes my blood boil, and it happened back in my senior year. I'm an 18-year-old female, and I was born with a pretty visible birthmark across half of my face and had multiple surgeries to help, but the scars remain. I've also been deaf since birth. Despite that, I'm pretty confident and I had a few close friends. Well, I decided not to go to prom because it just wasn't my scene, and I wanted to save some money. 1 week before prom, my mom sat me down smiling ear to ear, and she said to me, "Oh, I got you a date." She had signed me up to go with a boy in our town who was recovering from leukemia, but I don't even know this guy. His mom and mine are apparently friends and agreed it would be so sweet if we went together. They even posted a photo collage of us online, like it was some kind of romantic comedy. Well, I called her out immediately. She said to me, "I just thought this would be your only chance to go to prom." And I responded by saying, "Why? Because I'm deaf and I have scars?" And when I said that, she didn't answer. Well, needless to say, I canceled everything and I didn't go. And the worst part about it is that that poor boy thought that I had set it up, and he apologized for my mom's behavior when he found out. My mom still tries to frame it like, oh, I missed out on a beautiful moment, but no, I dodged a nightmare of manipulation that truly would have been the worst thing to deal with in my life. Oh man, if my mom did that to me, I would never trust her again. Now, I don't know about you, but for me personally, I don't like being signed up for stuff without knowing about it in advance. Like being volunteered for stuff is just a nightmare. But the fact that she tried to do this and be like, this is your only chance to go to prom, when it's like, dude, I don't want to go, and also, what are you doing? Like, that would dissolve all trust I had in my mom for like the rest of my life. There's no way I would ever tell her anything ever again. So yeah, good for you for putting your foot down, because this is a massive overstepping of boundaries. Am I the jerk for not apologizing to my coworker after she decided to give me the silent treatment for over 3 weeks over something that I said? Because right now it is literally affecting my ability to do my job, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my coworker, who we will call Alyssa, is one of those types who never contributes to any group projects. And I'm sure you know the type, the one where you have to carry through everything. So at our last team meeting, we were dividing up what needs to be done, and our manager assigns her a job. Well, she responded by saying, "What, me?" To which I adamantly and rather snarkily say, "Well, you do have to do something." And I didn't really mean to say it, but it did just kind of pop out. And I will admit, this wasn't the nicest comment, but it just kind of came out after working with someone like this for over 3 years. Well, after I said this, she has been acting like I don't exist for 3 weeks. And what I mean by that is that if I say anything, she would just stare off totally blank-faced. Like if I try to hand something to her, she acts like I'm totally invisible, like I might as well not exist. Today it got worse because she found out I went behind her back and redid her part for the project because the deadline is in 2 days. And it was actually unusable and just completely bad. For context, we're in a team of about 5 people, and all of this is very obvious in our office. For the first few days, I gave her space. face, assuming things would blow over and she would just move past it. But by the end of the second week, I decided screw it. I'm not breaking first because this is just ridiculous. One of our other team members confronted her on how she's acting and how she's making everybody uncomfortable by keeping this up. Because you know what? It's affecting the whole office. She then told them that she needs more time because apparently it hurt her so badly that I spoke angrily to her. Now here's where I might be the jerk. Had she decided to approach me about it, I likely would have apologized. But I've made no attempt to do so to her since I find this behavior completely insane. I've had many instances of being annoyed by her or someone else in our office, and I've been able to either talk my way through them or just move on from it and get over it. And so with that, I throw myself onto the judgment of the court. Am I the jerk for not apologizing and trying to make amends with my coworker? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. Okay, in my opinion, I think you're definitely not the jerk, but I also think it's time for you to go to like human resources or something like that because she is literally affecting your job. Like I would go to my manager and be like, look, she is giving me the silent treatment and I don't know what to do. But on top of that, you better believe I am never apologizing to someone like that. I'm sorry, it's not gonna happen. There is no way I'm gonna allow that kind of behavior. If she wants to act like a toddler and pretend to be offended, then congratulations. You can make yourself look bad by acting like an idiot in the office. Because this doesn't make you look bad, this makes her look bad. Like if I was in that kind of work environment, I would just be acting like nothing's wrong. I would keep going about my day being like, okay, whatever, I'm gonna do me. Have fun being mad, I got nothing to do with that. Because let's not forget, it's been 3 weeks, people. Like, dude, get over yourself. If you don't want to talk to me, then don't talk to me. But guess what? This is a professional environment. And if you can't keep up with it, then I'm sorry, but you've got to go in my opinion. And I seriously mean that. Either hash it out or get out of the way. Don't prevent me from doing my job just because you got your feelings hurt, all because you don't do your job. Like seriously, that's all that's going on here. This coworker just sucks at their job and they're taking it out on you because you finally said the quiet part out loud that I'm sure everybody agrees with. So no, overall, I don't think you're the jerk. This coworker is acting like a child and I think it's time that HR or like a manager finally disciplines them. An entitled jerk rear-ends my car, who then sends his wealthy boomer father to my house to try and bribe me to not go through insurance, leaving me absolutely dumbfounded at the audacity of this idiot. Here's how it went down. Okay, to start things out, I was stationary at a traffic light and then someone ran into my back bumper. We pulled over and he said it was a work vehicle, so he doesn't have the insurance information, but he said he would give me his business card. Well, I contacted him and he gave me the number of his boss to get it sorted out. And as it turned out, this was his dad. He was the owner and director of the business. Now, neither his son nor him tried to deny fault, but the dad wanted to come see the car to see the extent of the damage. Now, I wasn't too keen on giving him my address, but just to get this over and done with, I told him where I live. I was born in 1996, so it shouldn't be surprising to hear that I don't live somewhere fancy. It's a tiny townhouse in a big complex owned by foreign investors. So the dad comes to my tiny townhouse to see my car, and this guy pulls up in a Porsche and steps out to shake my hand. I show him my car and he goes, "Oh, it's not that bad. A cut and polish would fix that right up." And I'm just looking at my bumper myself and I'm thinking, is this guy blind? Because the bumper was dented and the paint was lifted. I'm pretty sure a cut and polish wouldn't bang out a dent and respray with the same color. So I said to him, I don't think that will do it. It's dented. But he just straight up ignored me. He said to me, "A cut and polish for the entire car is about $300. So how about I give you $300 and we pretend this never happened?" Now this idiot pulled up in a $600,000 car and tried to bribe me with $300 to forget that his son hit my car. He knew the damage was worse than what a cut and polish could do, but he also knew his insurance excess and premium would increase with the claim, and he just didn't want to spend that much money. So he would rather pay an innocent victim peanuts to save himself some money. He saw where I live as well, so he would have known that I wasn't well off, and still he had no sympathy. Clearly his money is more important. So I told him I'm not taking his money. I'll only accept his insurance information so I can launch a claim. Now he didn't fight any further. He gave me the information, but the fact an obvious wealthy man tried to bribe an obviously poor man with peanuts left a very bad taste in my mouth. Yeah, that guy's a scumbag. You know for a fact he did not want to go through insurance because that probably was going to cost him a lot more money in the long run. So good for you for standing up for yourself, because this guy was a complete jerk. An entitled jerk blocks me in after me and my family went kayaking for a day trip. So I decided to get some petty revenge by quite literally towing their car out of the way. Here's how I did it. To start things out, the family and I decided to meet up for a holiday weekend kayaking trip. We all have our own kayaks, and knowing it would be an extremely busy day, we decided the most efficient way for us to get there was to carpool and transport all the kayaks with my utility trailer. We leave early in the day and get to the launch zone and unload. I go park in the trailer parking area, and we enjoyed our day out on the water. Now, as expected, when we got back, the park was at full capacity, but what I didn't expect was for someone to decide to park in front front of my truck, blocking me in. After spending a full day out on the water, I was exhausted and ready to get home. Since it was towards the end of the day, I figured they would be coming back soon. So we just grabbed our kayaks and everyone carried them from ramp to the truck instead of backing the truck down hoping these people would return while we were loading, but unfortunately they didn't. But fortunately, there was enough room that if I unhooked my trailer, I would be able to maneuver it out from the spot. After about 30 minutes, I said screw it and decided to be the jerk that everyone expects a four-wheel drive truck driver to be. The car blocking me in had a tow hook and I had a tow rope in my toolbox, so I unhooked my trailer, set up the tow rope to the car, and then quickly squeezed my truck out of the parking spot, lined up with a tow rope, and then drug the smaller car a few feet through the sandy grass until I could get my trailer out, and then we got out of there. I really hope they notice, even though I'm pretty sure this person was too incompetent to see the tire marks from his car being drugged through the sand, but regardless, it still makes me feel warm inside knowing that I got his car out of the way right when it counted. Okay, this story blows my mind because I can't imagine someone actually blocking you in like that. I know if I was in that situation, I would be pissed off, especially if I didn't have a tow hook of some kind. Like, this would have been a nightmare to deal with because I'm sure you were like off in the middle of nowhere and there was no one around to help you out. But good for you for being prepared and for getting this idiot out of your way because their behavior was completely uncalled for. My manager screams at me for allowing anyone who's not a customer to park in our customer-only parking lot for our restaurant. So I decide to maliciously comply by denying his spoiled daughter a parking spot in our parking lot literally because she wasn't a customer. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, years ago, I worked as a parking lot attendant for a high-end restaurant, and parking there was for customers only. I mean, not even employees could park there. Now, I got chewed out by a manager one day because I let a cook who was running late park there, and the cook apologized to me later because I definitely got in trouble. Well, one night the owner's daughter, who is a complete spoiled brat by the way, showed up trying to park, and I just told her, I'm sorry, but customers are only allowed to park here. And when she flipped out on me, I said again, no, I'm sorry, I was yelled at before by Tony, the manager, and he said it's customers only. Well, because of that, she wound up having to parallel park 4 blocks away and apparently scratched her bumper backing into a street sign. Well, Tony promptly showed up and fired me right there on the spot. This was a beer money job, so I told him where he could stick it. A couple days later, the owner called me and apologized for the entire thing. He said the whole situation caused restaurant drama because employees took my side. I did the right thing by letting the cook park there, and then Tony overreacted by yelling at me. And he obviously knew I was being difficult because I had been yelled at and just wouldn't let his kid park there. He then offered me my job back, but I politely declined. A couple months later, I found out that the guy who replaced me got fired for taking bribes from people to park there in the lot and then just never go into the restaurant. Tony then got fired because it turns out he was fudging the sales numbers and he was stealing money from the till every single night, which is truly ironic because this guy ended up losing his job in the end, just like he made me lose mine. Man, if this isn't karma coming back and giving you a high five, then I don't know what is. Not only was your replacement a complete scumbag, but Tony also got outed for literally stealing from the company. And that is seriously way worse than anything you could even imagine doing. Because seriously, to steal money from the company you're working for, like that is a different level of dumb. So honestly, good for you for maliciously complying in the way that you did, because I bet that put a target right on Tony's back, which eventually led to him getting fired, which he also absolutely deserved. An entitled tourist tries to hijack my guided tour, all because she apparently knows better than the tour guide who literally is a local. And I'm honestly still blown away by the audacity of this weirdo. Here's how it went down. I recently took a solo trip to Portugal and signed up for this awesome small group historical walking tour with a maximum of 6 people, as well as having a local guide, seeing lots of hidden gems off the beaten path. I love stuff like this because it's really chill and you get real stories instead of the usual touristy scripted stuff. Now, we're about 20 minutes into the tour when this woman who was not in our group starts tailing us. At first, I thought she was just coincidentally going in the same direction, but no, I was completely wrong. She starts asking the guide questions, and at first, he's polite and answers a few of them, but then she starts loudly correcting him, where she then starts talking over him to give her own version of the history. And I'm not exaggerating. She literally turned to the group and said, "I've done a lot of reading about this city. You guys just don't need to listen to everything he says." Now, I think we were all too stunned to respond for a moment, but the guide kindly told her, "Ma'am, this is a private tour, and it's only for people who booked in advance. You're welcome to join a public one at the main square." She then said, "Well, I'm already here. I paid for a flight, didn't I? This is a public city, and I'll walk wherever I want." She then kept following us for another 10 minutes while loudly ranting about elitist travel culture and how real travelers don't need guides anyways. Eventually, the guide just paused and said that we'd wait until she got bored and left, and she finally stormed off when she realized no one was giving her the attention that she clearly needed. This is such a weird behavior. Imagine being so bored that you fly all the way to Portugal just to be like, guys, I know way more than this person who lives here. Listen to me instead of him. I know exactly what's going on. It's like, oh my gosh, you need to get lost, lady. Get a life and get out of here. What are you doing? Like, this is already an expensive trip as it is. So to have some random lady be like, oh no, I know better than this guy. Like, that's super annoying, and I know for a fact I would be very pissed off about this. My toxic job is always demanding that I work through every vacation I ever receive. So I decided to get some petty revenge by literally following the letter of the law and using all of my PTO throughout the rest of the year, leaving my toxic managers in a pinch where for the first time they actually had to do their job. Here's how I did it. Okay, so this happened a couple years ago at my old job. This was a pretty demanding corporate gig where we were always juggling tight deadlines, constant emails, and way too many meetings that easily could have been Slack messages. Around early November, Human Resources sent out one of those all-staff emails with a bright red banner and an urgent tone. It read something like this: reminder, all unused PTO must be taken before December 31st. We will not be allowing rollovers this year. Please schedule your remaining days immediately or risk losing them all. And this was with no exceptions, no flexibility, and no consideration for project deadlines. Now, I wasn't one to take a ton of time off during the year, mostly because every time I tried, something urgent would come up and I would just get guilted into postponing it. So by November, I had 10 full days of paid time off just sitting there. And according to Human Resources' big red warning, I had about 6 weeks to use them. Now, naturally, I did what any burnt out, unappreciated worker would do. I opened the calendar and I booked myself off from December 18th to December 31st. 2 full weeks. Right before New Year's, smack in the middle of the most chaotic time in our project cycle. A week later, my manager, let's call him Rob, came to me in a mild panic. Rob said to me, hey, I saw your PTO request and I was hoping we could shift that a little. December's going to be a critical time for the project and we really need all hands on deck. I then said to him, yeah, I get that, but HR literally just sent out that PTO deadline. If I don't use those days, then I lose them all. And I've already worked through enough vacations this year. He looked uncomfortable but couldn't argue with the logic. I even forwarded him the Human Resources email with a subject line saying, using my days as required. Well, he escalated to Human Resources and of course, they replied by saying, we understand that it may be inconvenient, but our PTO policy is final. Managers are responsible for planning around employee availability. And seriously, that reply felt like Christmas came early. So I prepped my team as best I could. I left detailed notes, and on December 18th, I logged out stress-free. While they were scrambling to hit deadlines, dealing with last-minute client requests and working late, I was sipping hot chocolate, watching Netflix, and actually enjoying my holiday season for once. When I came back in January, the project had been delivered, but only barely. The team was exhausted, mistakes had been made, and the post-mortem meeting was basically 45 minutes of finger-pointing, but no one dared say a word to me. After all, I was just following Human Resources rules. So the moral of this story is that if a company insists you follow the policy to the letter of the law, don't feel bad when you do, even if it means watching the ship catch fire from your cozy vacation cabin. Dude, this is like a dream. I dream of having that kind of moment because seriously, I've worked jobs where I've been underappreciated, and doing something like this would have felt amazing. And I think we've all been there to some degree where you're like the only person who gets stuff done, and you're always the one that's expected to make the sacrifice to get the project done. But it's like, dude, why am I the only one doing it? Why is no one else stepping up and being like, oh yeah, I'll work through vacation? Like, it's so frustrating, and I just know exactly where the original poster's coming from. So I completely understand when they're like, oh yeah, when I got that email, it was like Christmas was right here in front of me, because that would have been amazing to see. And it's so funny because these people and like these managers who are like, oh, we really need you around, we can't do this without you, somehow, despite all that guilt tripping, still get the project done. So in reality, they could always get it done, but they just don't want to do it themselves. They want you to stick around so they can run off and get their vacation. And it's like, dude, you're an awful manager. Why would you treat your employees like that? But regardless, good for you for getting that PTO off and showing these people exactly why they need to treat you better. And the fact that this fell all within the rules of the company, it just makes this entire situation all the more better. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk in my apartment complex is constantly hogging the washers and dryers that we share as a building. So I decided to get some revenge by showing him exactly how annoying it is to have to wait to do your laundry. Here's how I did it. Okay, to start things out, we share the laundry in my apartment building. There are 4 washers and 4 dryers, and it is a situation where it's like first come, first serve. But there is an unspoken rule about all of this. Do not leave your stuff sitting there for hours. If it's done and you're not back in a reasonable time, someone will gently move it so they can have access to the machines. But then here comes Basket Guy. Every Saturday morning, he loads all of his clothing into 3 washers at once, and then he vanishes for hours. Not only does he leave wet clothing in the machine, but he also leaves his laundry baskets on top so no one can move his stuff without awkwardly putting it on the floor. We complained, we left notes, but literally nothing changed. Well, last weekend, I arrived 10 minutes after his washers had stopped, and he was nowhere in sight. So it was then that I decided I had had enough. I emptied the washers, I stacked his clothing on the folding table, and I just waited. I had a book and I had a chair, and I was right next to the dryers. He then came in 40 minutes later with his usual smug-faced, everyone will wait for me kind of vibe, and stopped dead in his tracks when he saw me sitting there with his clothing folded like I was doing inventory. He mumbled something like, "Hey, I was gonna be right back." But I smiled and I said, "Oh, of course, you always are." Then I put my clothes in the dryers, all 4 of them, and I started them up, meaning that not a single item of his made it into the machine. He stood there with his wet laundry and no baskets, because as a side note, I had also moved those into the locked lost and found closet next to the mailroom, which by the way had a keypad entry and he didn't have access. Well, because I did that, he hasn't pulled the triple wash disappearing act ever since then. And honestly, I think this is a lesson he absolutely needed to learn. Oh man, imagine living in an apartment complex where there's like an unwritten rule of like, hey, move your crap out of the way, and still decide to take advantage of that, despite all the notes literally in front of him that I'm sure he's seeing. He's just choosing to ignore it and be a massive jerk in the meantime. So good for you for putting this guy in his place. His behavior was completely unacceptable, and I just love the fact that you straightened that out incredibly fast. An entitled Karen demands that I don't park my car in front of her house. But after she decided to get an attitude with me and treat me very poorly, I decided to put my foot down and say no, stating that this is a public street and that I can do whatever I want. Here's how it all went down. So I live in a full house and everyone has their own car. The driveway can only fit 3 cars and we sometimes have people over, so it isn't really possible to park everything in front of the house 24/7. Well, today I got home after work and some people were over, so I parked in front of our neighbor's house. As I get out, I see her putting her trash out and I say hello and I wave as I try to go inside. She then asked me to not park in front of her house because she has guests coming over. Now keep in mind, we already have guests and she's only claiming to have guests coming while no cars have arrived in front of her house yet. I wanted to be neighborly, but the way she approached me and said it was more of a command. So I said to her, well, this is a public street, so anybody can park here. She then said to me, well, my guests need a place to park. So I responded and said, well, where do you think I should park? And then I look around and start gesturing all over the place at the other available space in front of her house, as well as the rest of the street. She said to me, I don't know, just not in front of my house. Can you just move your car? But when she said that, I looked at her and I said no, and I just walked inside. And you know what? I didn't even really process it at the moment because it was just so weird to me. Later on, I then went out to put my own trash out and move our bin to the street, but that's when I see that she had moved her bin really close to my car, probably hoping the dump truck will damage my car. But the funny thing is, they won't pick it up like that. They don't want to take the risk of damaging someone's car if they do come by to pick up the bins. So in essence, she's just not going to be getting her trash dumped, and that is really funny to me. Oh man, that's so weird to me. I'll never understand someone actually being like, oh, you can't park in front of my house on this, public street. Like if you're not blocking any driveways and you're parking somewhere where anyone can park, then guess what? There's nothing wrong with this. Like legitimately, you have every right to park there if you want to, especially if it's a busy street. Like, dude, take what you got. And from the sounds of it, it seems like there's a lot of places they can park, so it's like, dude, just get a grip. So good for you for putting this Karen in her place, because in my opinion, she was being completely irrational. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. If you'd like to submit your own stories, check the link in the description because we would love to hear what you have to say. Let's get started. Am I the jerk for snapping at the new guy after he literally has made my life a living nightmare at my job? Because after calling him out on all of his BS, he's now acting like a wounded dog. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I have a coworker who is driving me nuts. He's a new hire 2 months in and on a probationary clause. And he was also unemployed for a year before we hired him. During a meeting right after he got hired, the department vice president inadvertently called out his probationary status. We were discussing vacation planning and it just kind of came up. It was an unfortunate spotlight just for a bit, and he's just running out of the gates. So here's the big complaints. He works underneath me on tasks that are assigned to me, uninvited, unannounced, and not necessary at all. He interrupts smaller meetings to explain technical concepts to me and makes insignificant corrections to my work in meetings. Now here's my bellyache complaints. He triggers on every opportunity to play the game of like basically being right about everything. He'll throw out insignificant sticking points like it's something that he just needs to do. And he'll do this almost every single sentence. And I gotta be honest, it's super irritating. He's very difficult to work with. He sends those 2:35 a.m. emails that aggrandizes his contributions and sacrifices in a bullet-pointed thesis. Now maybe he's a little bit different or maybe it's just me, but at this point I've been needling him a little bit. I've been baiting him, calling him out on some of his BS, and now he's acting like a wounded dog. He's avoiding eye contact, and now it's weird. I mean, way too much drama's going on. The joy of my work has been slightly crushed, and I'm honestly just kind of at an impasse. So am I the jerk here, or is there something else going on that I just might not know about? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Dude, I can't stand coworkers like that who have to be right about everything, and yet still assume that somehow they're like God's gift to whatever company you're working for. And it's like, dude, I can kind of see why you haven't worked in a year. Like, this is super obnoxious. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for calling him out on his BS, because this guy's being obnoxious and he's making your work environment miserable. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be complaining or at least trying to find some kind of solution, because this behavior sounds incredibly annoying. My job has clear and obvious favorites in the workplace, treating them like royalty while treating the rest of us like a bunch of workhorses. So I decided to get some petty revenge by quite literally making my laptop into a brick in such a way that would make things incredibly frustrating for the person who would have to fix it. Here's how I did it. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I work in a high-pressure call center, and the way the system works here is deeply unfair. A handful of people who are close to the team leads get special treatment every single day. They get assigned non-call statuses, which basically means they don't have to take any calls. They literally sit there doing nothing, scrolling on their phones, walking in and out of the floor, or pretending to work while avoiding the core job of actually speaking to customers. Meanwhile, the rest of us, well, we're forced to take non-stop calls with barely any breaks. It doesn't matter if you're stressed out or sick or mentally exhausted, we're expected to work like machines. I mean, it's completely lopsided. I've been watching this favoritism happen every single day. The same people getting breaks, extra time off, and even work from home allowances, while we who follow the rules get treated like we don't matter. So yes, over time that builds a sense of burnout, frustration, and a feeling that the system is rigged. Add to that the fact that we're treated like children. We're not even allowed to wear rain-ready flippers during the rainy season. If it rains and your shoes get soaked, well, too bad. Walk around in wet socks all day. And then they have the nerve to send corporate-wide emails about taking care during rains. I mean, the hypocrisy is just exhausting. Now, on to the part of this story about my laptop. 2 days ago, my work laptop asked for a big update. For anyone unfamiliar, a BIOS is like the basic software your computer needs to even start. If you interrupt this update, the computer becomes unusable. It won't boot into Windows or do anything. It becomes a brick, and I absolutely knew that. I also knew that IT wouldn't be able to recover anything from it or track what really happened. They would just have to wipe and reinstall everything, which would take days if that's even possible. And that means I wouldn't be on calls, and finally, I would get a chance to breathe a little bit. So yes, when the update started, I intentionally restarted the laptop several times, literally mid-update, by holding the power button. And you know what? I just pretended I didn't know any better. I had already told my team lead that the system was asking for an update, and when it broke, I simply told them I didn't know anything beyond logging in with my ID and password. And you know what? That's true. From their perspective, I'm not an IT expert. I'm just a call center employee. I don't code. I don't fix machines. So now IT has to take the laptop, re-image it or something, I don't really know, and I'm off the phones for a few days. Now, some people may call this sabotage, but let's be real. When you create a workplace where some people chill all day and others are treated like disposable robots, don't be surprised when people start looking for ways to survive. I didn't do this out of joy or laziness. I did it because I've been pushed to the edge. Because not everyone has the luxury to be the boss's favorite. Some of us are just trying to survive this broken system. Dude, I love the fact that you did this, because seriously, these people absolutely suck. I can't stand when there's favoritism in the workplace. Just treat people equally. And if anything, treat the people who actually do their job with respect and be like, okay, we're gonna give you benefits because you're doing a good job. Like a pay increase or a promotion of some kind. Like seriously. The fact that they're blatantly being like, oh yeah, here's our favorites and guess what? You're not one of them. Like, I don't know about you, but I would definitely be looking for another job at that point. But also, it's like, dude, you can't treat people like that and expect anyone to do their job. So in my opinion, I don't think you're in the wrong for doing this at all. It's obvious these people have favorites and they clearly are not going to give you any benefits that the rest of these people have. And that, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. My manager pulled off the greatest form of petty revenge I've ever seen in my life, as she left the other managers who treated her like garbage in such a bad spot that it literally nearly brought our business all the way to the ground. And I'm honestly so glad I was here to witness it, because it was incredibly satisfying. Here's what happened. So my boss was the kind of leader you don't forget. She was loved by her staff, but envied by her colleagues. Our team always had the highest morale and top ratings. And this is not because she cracked the whip, but because we genuinely respected her. You just didn't want to let her down. I mean, she was that type of boss. She was strong, she didn't take crap from anybody, and always showed up for us. We'd bring her home-cooked meals, coffee, little treats, not because we had to, but because she treated us like people, not just employees. And you know what? She did the same for us. If no one could cover a shift, she would work it herself. There was no ego, but instead just a lot of heart. Well, of course, that made some of the other managers incredibly bitter. You would hear them mutter little comments such as, well, why are her staff always doing this for her? Why does she treat them like that? We would catch their side eyes when we brought her gifts or food. They couldn't stand how much we loved her because they knew they could never get the same from their teams. But she never stooped to their level. She was classy and professional to the end. She didn't gossip, didn't talk garbage, even when we knew she had reason to. She kept people's business private, unlike the others who couldn't shut up about coworkers, even the ones they called their friends. Well, one day we found out her mother got really sick, and she held a meeting with us to say that she would be stepping away for a while to take care of her. Now, what she didn't tell us, but we later found out, was that management refused to approve the time off that she needed. So she said screw it and just stepped down. She chose her family, and honestly, we admired her even more for it. We threw her a going away party, and not a single other manager showed up, which is just typical. But we laughed, we cried, we took pictures, and we made it special. It was a beautiful, bittersweet goodbye. Then came the following Monday. Her last day had been Friday, and when I clocked in for my shift, everything was on fire. People were running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Managers looked wrecked, and I was incredibly confused. Well, that is until I found out about her big final FU to the company. It turns out before she left, she had approved vacation for all 17 of us who had planned a Vegas trip, and she didn't enter it into the system until her last couple of days, meaning that nobody caught it until it was way too late. All 17 of us gone on vacation, meaning there would be no staff to run the floor. Now, this was a hospitality job, which means if there's no staff, then there's no service, which will be a total disaster. So there I was, the only one who didn't go, as I did have school stuff, just slowly doing my job while the managers scrambled, sweat dripping from their faces. And watching the two who hated her the most try to figure out how she ran things and just fail miserably was incredibly delicious. She never raised her voice, she never even made a scene. But that move was the most amazing silent FU I've ever seen in my life. One of the best, most satisfying acts of petty revenge I've ever witnessed. Now, this was years ago, but just recently I found out one of those bitter managers ended up getting fired. In fact, it was her own staff who filed a grievance against her that got her fired. The other one is still there, and she's still bitter and still incredibly miserable. And honestly, it's one of those things that you simply love to see. Oh man, I love managers like this. They command respect, they treat you with respect, and they literally see you as a human being. Like, why are there not more people like that in the world? My God, it's so annoying. So yeah, this must have been incredibly satisfying to see because I kind of wish I was there to watch this all go down. Especially watching these other managers pretty much have a meltdown over not knowing what they're doing. That's the best kind of karma you could ever ask for, and in my opinion, it was entirely deserved. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for locking my roommate's emotional support blender in my closet after she started using it at every hour of the day and night? Because right now I'm really pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 22-year-old female and I live with two other roommates in a decent apartment. One of them, let's call her Maya, is super chill. The other one, let's call her Bridget, is something else. Now, I need to start by saying that Bridget has this blender she likes. And this really is like a normal blender, nothing special. But she has seriously started calling it her emotional support blender. At first, I thought it was a joke, but no, she fully means it. She blends stuff like 3 times a day. Smoothies, soups, weird powders from TikTok, you name it. The issue is that she runs it at literally all hours. She'll do this at 6 in the morning for a smoothie, or midnight when she wants some soup, or at 3 in the morning for some protein sludge. It's literally a full-blown rave in our kitchen at night. We've asked her nicely like 7 times to chill out. Me and Maya even bought her one of those like noise dampening pads for appliances, and she said it ruins the vibe. And it's like, girl, it's a blender. Anyways, last week I had exams, and I had literally begged for one single peaceful morning. I was up all night studying. I fell asleep at like 3:30 in the morning, but lo and behold, at 6:17 in the morning, I was violently awakened by her grinding frozen bananas or God knows what. And at this point, I just snapped. So I got out of bed, I walked to the kitchen in my giant Care Bear pajama pants, I unplugged the blender, and I said something like, I am done with this. I then put the blender in my closet, and I locked it in there with a little bike lock thing I had. So no dramatic yelling, but instead just vibes. Well, when I did that, Bridget freaked out. She started saying I violated her emotional boundary and that I'm blender shaming. And I genuinely just didn't even know that was a thing. She then texted our roommate group chat saying that she might have to file something with the landlord. And Maya just sent the side-eye emoji and went back to sleep. I gave it back that night after she apologized for waking me up again and said she would only blend during reasonable hours, but I still have no idea what that means. But now she's been super cold and is calling me controlling Kathy behind my back. Her TikTok is full of blender content, and I'm 98% sure that one of those posts was subtweeting me. So am I the jerk for locking up her blender? I didn't damage it, but I just needed one blender-free nap because I'm honestly sick of this woman and I don't know what to do. Dude, I would have done a lot more than just hide that thing. I would have absolutely busted it on the ground. around. I don't care what kind of consequences are gonna happen. This lady sounds insane. First of all, it doesn't seem like she ever sleeps because she's using that blender at midnight and at 3 in the morning, and it's like, dude, do you have a job? Are you unemployed? Like, what's going on right now? It's also incredibly weird to be like, this is my emotional support blender. And it's like, no, this is a noisemaker that is slowly making your roommates go crazy, lady. Like, why can't she do this at reasonable hours, bro? This is so stupid. Would it really be that hard to wait until like, oh, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning? Or even like 7:30, I'll give you 7:30. But even 6 in the morning, I would let that slide to an extent. Like, I would be pissed off and be like, you have to wait at least an hour before you use that crap. But for her to be making that noise at midnight and 3 in the morning, like, dude, that cannot happen. So on that end, no, you're definitely not the jerk. This lady sounds insane. Bridget sounds crazy. And just look at the way she freaked out. She seriously tried to be like, oh, this is an emotional boundary. You're blender shaming. And yeah, I'm right there with the original poster. I have no idea what that means. In fact, I guarantee you it doesn't mean anything. It seems like you could put the title of emotional support on anything these days, and it's like, okay, this is not an emotional support blender. This is a noisy product you're using at all hours that is preventing anyone from getting sleep. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Bridget sounds like an idiot, and I just would never want to live with someone like that. Because honestly, you could have done a lot worse than just hiding that stupid blender. Because I know if I was in your shoes, I would have opened the window and spiked that into the parking lot. Because there's no way I'm ever gonna put up with that. My psycho roommate shows up to my retail store looking for my manager for an interview that she claims I promised that she would have, as she feels entitled to have a job at my store after she got fired from 3 different jobs in just a few months. And now after this stunt, I'm honestly questioning our friendship and whether or not we should still be roommates, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm an 18-year-old female and I've been working at a clothing store in the mall for a few months now. It's my first steady job and it's a perfect fit for me. Great coworkers, a decent manager, and I finally feel like I'm getting my life together after moving out and going to college. I live with my high school friend turned roommate, who we will call Kayla, who's also 18 years old. Kayla's been struggling with jobs ever since we moved in. She's been fired from 3 part-time places in the past few months for being late, as well as slacking off and calling out last minute. She constantly borrows money from me and is always short on rent. I have always given her the benefit of the doubt due to her struggles and pay the portion of the rent she owed every single time. But last week, she found out my work was hiring and she practically begged me to refer her. I told her very politely that I didn't feel comfortable doing that, and I said something like, well, as much as I want to help you, I would like to keep work and personal life completely separate. And while she did get passive aggressive, she did drop it, or at least I thought so. Fast forward, and a few days later, I'm on shift when Kayla shows up to my store dressed extremely inappropriately. We're talking a mini skirt and a showy top. She then tells my manager that she's there for an interview that I set up for her. My manager looks confused and asks me in front of her if this is true, and I'm just standing there like, what? I literally say no, that I never arranged anything, and that I never referred her. Kayla looked shocked and said that I told her to just come in and introduce herself because apparently that's how they do things here. She tries to play it off, but my manager isn't buying it. She then politely asked her to leave and says they don't accept walk-ins without appointments or referrals. Kayla then storms out and texts me a wall of rage, saying that I embarrassed her, humiliated her on purpose, and I ruined her chance to finally get her life together. But here's the kicker. A few hours later, security tells us that she came back and she was caught sneaking into the back area where employees clock in. She says she forgot her water bottle even though she's never had one. She got escorted out and my manager had to file a report, and Kayla is now banned from the store. Now she's barely speaking to me and has been telling people I sabotaged her future and that I'm a toxic fake friend. One of her friends even DM'd me saying that I could have at least warned her instead of letting her walk into a trap. So seriously, am I at fault here for not getting her the job and supposedly embarrassing her when she showed up anyways? Because right now I'm incredibly embarrassed and I don't know what to do. Holy crap, your friend is insane. Like, this is a different level of crazy that you do not have to deal with. Like, seriously, this is weird. First of all, it's a giant red flag to get fired from 3 part-time places, all in just a few months too, by the way. Because in my opinion, if you want to work, then being on time is a simple thing. Just wake up early and get there. Make the time and plan accordingly, and you can make your job. Like, you can really do it. But her calling out and being late and slacking off, like, do you really think anybody's gonna want that in their workplace? Let alone your roommate? Like, come on, dude. But for me, the icing on the cake is the fact that she tried to ruin your reputation in front of your manager. Like, she really thought she could show up and be like, oh, I'm here for that interview, right? Like, I'm willing to believe that she tried to play on the idea of like, oh, well, you're not gonna get me your job? Then fine, I'm gonna take your job from you. And like, that was her whole plan the entire time. She just wanted to sabotage what you have because she can't have it. Like, that might even be why she was trying to like sneak in the back. Like, do something and then try and have it pinned on you or something like that. So in my opinion, Kayla is not your friend, she is not a good person, and in my opinion, I would not care for a second forget what her friends think, because this chick is insane and I would be working very hard to find a new roommate, because Kayla sounds like an absolute nightmare to live with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not letting my neighbor pay me to charge his Tesla at my outlet? Because right now, I am not sure if I'm the jerk. Here's what's going on. So my partner and I moved into our apartment in March, a residential building with 3 units, including a detached garage apartment behind our house. We noticed that our neighbor who lives in the garage apartment has his Tesla plugged into an outlet by our front door. We suspected this outlet was connected to our electric meter and tested the theory by briefly unplugging the charging cord, and we saw the electric meter come to a halt when it was unplugged. And not wanting to be jerks, we just decided to plug it back in. I texted our landlord with the findings and asked if there was another outlet the neighbor could use. She responded that the neighbor sent her a screenshot of his Tesla app showing an estimate of $19 in charging for the month, and that he was willing to pay $20 a month until there was a long-term solution. The landlord would have an electrician come to confirm findings and establish a long-term solution for his car charging. The neighbor texted me saying this had been brought to his attention and he had no idea he was using our outlet. In fact, he had been using it for 2 years and it was never mentioned to him. Evidently, he's knowingly been charging his car at an outlet he hasn't been paying for 2 years. Now, we looked at the electrical company rates, and based on the consumed wattage shown in his Tesla app, at the current rate plus tax, it would be about $35 a month and not $20. And by the way, we are financially comfortable with a $15 a month loss. I mean, it isn't a lot, but to ask for $35 feels like nickel and diming our neighbor, and it will likely change every month. The actual solution is for him to charge at his own outlet and not use ours. I then texted our neighbor saying that we didn't want any money until the electrician had confirmed that he was charging at our outlet. Our landlord tonight texted us saying that he was going to send about $20 a month to cover his electric usage. My partner then texted both of them and said we don't want any money. We want our neighbor to just not use our outlet. And our neighbor replied that ours was the only outdoor outlet. My partner then replied asking why it has to be an outdoor outlet. And the landlord replied saying that to use an indoor outlet would require a cracked window, which would be energy inefficient. And also, our neighbor has his windows open all day every day, and we live in California. So even if it was hot, there are solutions. He could get flat extension cords, he could put some kind of weather strip in the window crack, etc. Our landlord replied by saying understood and instructed the neighbor not to plug it into our outlet by our front door any longer. Well, the neighbor has not responded, and I'm feeling like a jerk because it is a very small amount of money, and we know he needs to charge his car. It's a small apartment complex and we see him every day. But also, this shouldn't be our problem. He should be the one solving his problems and dealing with the energy expense and not us. On the other hand, we could just easily let it go. We just don't think that we should have to be the ones dealing with this at all, and at this point, we seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, this has nothing to do with the money in my opinion. Like seriously, this is the principle of the matter. The fact that the landlord even entertained the idea of like, oh, don't worry, I'll send you $20 a month to cover the cost. It's like, dude, that's not the point. The point is these people are using my electricity, and instead of like making them do their own thing, you're still trying to force it on me. And oh, by the way, it's not the full amount that I'm owed. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, that's super annoying. And I don't know about you, but $15 a month would add up very quickly. That's $180 a year that I'm losing because this guy wants to like not give me the full amount. So no, you're definitely not the jerk for telling this guy to buzz off. If he really wants to charge his stupid car, then he should find an outlet that he owns and not try to siphon it off of your grid. My parents treated me like garbage for a majority of my childhood, and every time they did, I decided to get some weird petty revenge, striking back at them in ways that they never expected. Here's what I did. I was 15 at the time, and I'm now 23, and I've been no contact for a long time. My mom and her husband had been awful, had neglected me, and left me out of everything my entire life. They treated me so poorly and like a burden for even existing. I mean, I was the one that everyone's problems got taken out on. The week before this happened, my mom, her husband, and all of my siblings went on a lake trip, and of course, they excluded me and my grandma. A week later, my grandma told me to pack a bag for the day, and this is where we went on a day trip to a lovely beach. We went swimming, we went out to a restaurant, and we went out to a museum. We collected seashells. I mean, it was an amazing day. When I got home, my mom and her husband yelled at me. They said I should have told my grandma to take my sister too. They then grounded me for being selfish and self-absorbed, saying that I left my sister behind, while also saying that my sister was the favorite. They grounded me for a whole month. And you know what? That entire month, I was a menace enacting my petty revenge. Every day that I was grounded, I let the shower handle up and made sure the knob was the cold part of the shower. Well, that morning, my mother's husband yelled, "Who the F left the shower knob on? The cold water sprayed on me." And when I heard him yell this, I just quietly giggled. And trust me, this was just the beginning. Every time I noticed the toilet paper was low, I used the entirety of it and didn't change it out for a new roll. I kept a pack of wet wipes in my bag for this reason. I went around the kitchen and I often unplugged the microwave, the air fryer, etc. And it really made it inconvenient to use the kitchen. I even logged out of all the household computers so that it was a hassle for my mother and her husband to reset the password. I removed the label off of all the canned goods in the kitchen, and that month I took all of the spoons, the knives, and the forks, and I threw them all in the trash. I even had a stash of plastic forks and cutlery in my room that me and my grandmother used. And trust me, they flipped out over the utensils. I logged out of all of the streaming apps on the television, and none of them knew any of the passwords, so they also had to go through a lot of hassle to figure that out. The cherry on top of all of it is that I took all of the garbage bags and I got rid of them. And they were mad they couldn't throw anything away, and they had to go to the store to buy more. And you know what? I won't deny it. I was a very petty child, but my revenge was so satisfying because these people seriously deserved it. Yeah, from what the original poster describes, especially in like the comment section, these people were really bad. They treated them like this all the time, and it was a constant battle. They even admitted that, yeah, they probably should have done worse. So I love the fact that you got some revenge as best you could at the age of 15, because these people sounded like they really sucked. An entitled Karen literally gets so impatient in a parking lot that she says to a cop they can either get out of her way or she's gonna hit their car. Here's what happened. Okay, so I went out to dinner with my husband, and when we were leaving, we saw that someone had grazed the side of our van while we were dining. It's nothing crazy, but there are some gouged scratches. Very superficial, but it was a hit and run. We asked the restaurant if they could access the footage, and they asked us to call the police. And trust me, this was our next order of business. So we called and had a seat at some picnic tables while we waited about 15 minutes for the officer to come by and take the report. Just as we had sat to wait, the boomers walked out and she was loudly exclaiming, "I'm just saying that if that's how they treat their paying customers." And she's saying this very grumpy, but whatever. The officer arrived and parked behind our van rather than pulling into a parking spot. And at this point, it had been about 20 minutes since they had left the restaurant, but they were still there in their vehicle. As we were finishing up, the boomer comes over and says to the cop, "I don't want to have to do more paperwork when I hit your car. Can you move it so we can go?" And the officer said, "Well, ma'am, I'm on official business. Return to your vehicle and I'll be finished soon. Just turn around and return to your vehicle." She then looked like she was going to say something else, but he just turned on his heels right back to us. She then got a little red, turned around and stomped back to her car. The entitlement is astounding, honestly impressive, and I'd never dream of saying something like that to an officer ever in my life. Dude, I cannot imagine sitting there and being like, "Oh, if you don't get out of the way, I'm gonna hit your car." By the way, they said that to a cop. Like, dude, are you serious right now? You are that impatient? Like, man, you got some guts or you're just plain stupid. But I honestly think in this situation, the Karen of the story is just incredibly stupid. Today, I realize that I'm pretty sure I'm being fired from my job, but I'm trying to remain optimistic about my next move, because right now I'm not entirely sure what I'm gonna do next. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been serving for around 11 years and working at this restaurant for 2. And before I lament, I just want everyone to know, I understand I 100% brought this upon myself, and this isn't the restaurant's fault, it's all my own. I'm just sharing my grievances here while also being a cautionary tale. I got written up for sleeping through my alarm last week. This is not good, but it's better than getting fired. On Friday, I was super busy and got some checks mixed up, got a customer pissed off because of it, and he pulled my manager aside since he was rightfully upset. He even asked if I was okay, which made it even worse because I wasn't. I've been going through some personal stuff and it's been bleeding into other aspects of my life. However, I understand my personal problems are not the problems of the business, and I realized that I made it their problem, which it shouldn't have been. They told me to take tonight off, but I'm almost positive I know what's happening. So I printed out some resumes to find another job, and I'm finding a therapist tomorrow. The moral of the story is a tale as old as time. Don't let your personal problems affect your professional life. Also, don't try to take a 20-minute power nap an hour before your shift after you've been experiencing insomnia, because trust me, it's not gonna work out in your favor. Oh man, I've been there for like so many different phases of my life, so I totally understand that you're going through a rough patch and it's bleeding into work. Like, anyone can understand that, and I'm sorry it's just not working out for you. But you know what? There's always light at the end of the tunnel, and there's always a better opportunity. And hopefully you find that sooner than later. My entitled aunt corners me over not texting her on my birthday. And after listening to her scream and rant at me, I finally snapped and did something that I've never done before, where I stood up for myself in a way that she will truly never forget. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this just happened, but I need to get some context to all of you. I have an aunt on my mom's side, married to her brother. We'll call her Aunt Karen for the sake of not doxing anybody. Anywho, she has never truly liked me and does a poor job of hiding it, whether it's by making obvious faces and getting silent when I speak, or showing how she's annoyed, or just immediately being very short with me. This makes me tense, and I'm a person with bipolar disorder, as well as PTSD and an anxiety disorder. So truly, it's not a good mix. Anywho, last week was my birthday, and a lot of people sent me birthday messages. I didn't respond to all of them because my sibling was taking me out, trying to make my birthday special, knowing that I don't really have many good ones. So naturally, I'm not going to message every single person unless I see it in the moment. And I'm not one to text back immediately or even see it, and it's not malicious. I'm just bad at texting. Well, this is what puts her on a warpath. She actually came over, ranted to my mom while she was working, and then she went to find me. I was gaming with my friends when I heard my Aunt Karen say, "Come here right now, we need to talk." I then tell my friends to give me a moment, and I head down where she's standing, and she has one arm against the table with her palm pressed in and a hand on her hip staring me down, blocking me in between the base of my stairs and the entry of the kitchen. There was no way to get past, only up. There is a sliding door that separates the entryway from the base of my stairs, and this will be important later on. She then immediately goes off on me. "Okay, I messaged you and your twin on your birthday, but you can't message me back." I responded by saying I was out all day with my siblings. I barely messaged anyone back. I'm sorry. It's at this point that she goes on this huge rant where all her words are just blurred together to where I just snapped. I say to her, "Texting you is not my obligation. I don't have to apologize for it actually, and I'm done with this conversation." Well, she immediately is taken aback. I don't think anyone in this family thinks that I have what it takes to do this, and I'm usually the shy, quiet one, but boy oh boy does she get pissed. She then tries to say, "No, we are not done." But I just say, "Nope, we are. See you later. Bye." And I then proceed to pull the sliding pocket door in her face, and I yell at her, "I'm off to have fun with my friends." She then opens the door and starts yelling, "You get back here right now." But I just say, "Nope, no, bye, leave me alone. I know you don't like me anyways. See ya." It's at this time I'm shaking violently, and the anxiety hits me so bad that I almost pass out. But oh my god, it felt so good to tell her off. I know this will start some crap with her family, but I really just don't care. No one in my family really gives a crap about me anyways, and I'm over on the other side cutting off ties. I'm at the point where I'm done caring if my anxiety tries to take me down. I did take some anxiety medication, and my friends helped me calm down and give me a safe space. If she was downstairs listening, I just don't care anymore. I just was not gonna take it. Even my dog hates her, and my dog is the sweetest being in existence, and would probably befriend a robber breaking in over her. She's also an entitled parent as she has a son, and he is super chill and probably will cut her off as well, but she is also a boy mom definitely. She made him compete in all sorts of things, making him the best of the best, and she had Munchausen's by proxy, claiming that he is lactose intolerant when I've seen him down all sorts of dairy no problem, while also making him be homeschooled. So I'm pretty sure half the family will be berating me, but I'm just gonna tune them out. I would rather not care than have uncontrollable panic attacks. And even to this day, I still don't know what came over me, but I'm honestly so glad that I did it. Man, I love this so much, and I'm so proud of the original poster. I've dealt with family members who are absolutely toxic in this way, or even just friends and like acquaintances who treat me like garbage, and it's like, okay, enough is enough. I cannot deal with this. This is so frustrating. So good for you for taking a stand, and to me, this is a great example of standing up for yourself. It's never a bad thing to say, no, you're not going to talk to me like that, while establishing that this behavior is wrong, it's weird, and I'm not going to take it any longer. So good for you, because this aunt absolutely deserved to get shut down. My mother-in-law literally gave away all of my belongings. As she rifled through all of my stuff she said we could store at her house, and just gave stuff away as she pleased. And now I feel a level of betrayal that I've never felt in my life, and I'm super frustrated, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm really not sure how to navigate this situation. Recently, my fiance and I were homeless as we transitioned from selling our house to finding a rental, so we moved in with his mother. While living with his mother, we put all of our stuff into storage. We originally were going to put our stuff into one of her empty rooms, but my boyfriend advised against it, as he said that she and her husband would go through all of our stuff. And you know what? I didn't believe it until it actually happened. So we finally found our own place, and I was not able to fit everything we had into it. We moved 8 hours away, and I asked her if I could store a few items in her empty closet in a room that she never touches. It would literally just be a chair, a few boxes, a pillow, and a small table. Well, my fiance's brother is coming into town and offered to bring my things, and that's when she admitted that she had given my pillow away to their grandmother. Last night, his grandmother calls me, and it's super awkward, basically saying that I can't have it back, even though I spent $50 on it. It was just super awkward. Well, I told her she could just have it in the end, friend, but that's when she said she gave it back evidently in tears, but I was super nice about it, and I just said that she could have it. Well, then his dad was telling me how selfish and evil I am for taking a pillow from an old woman, and I'm just like, well, you guys are super selfish for shopping through my items without asking, and for telling me I could store them there to begin with, especially when I raised concerns with this happening and they ensured multiple times that it wouldn't. Oh, and by the way, they stole a brand new fan from me that I got to use once that cost me $150 that was in the closet, and I couldn't take it back because it had so much dirt and dust on it. But apparently I'm the evil one in the situation, although I literally said she could have it in the end. And I know it has zero value to her. She's always asking to keep our stuff, like a random Nike hoodie for my boyfriend that he was literally wearing. They are super weird like that. And my boyfriend was super kind and gave her the hoodie off his back when she probably just threw it in a closet. And the thing is, he doesn't even have that much because he is such a good guy. And his grandma's the type of person to have a ton of money and just never buy us a present ever. I don't know, I just don't feel entitled to give anyone anything of mine, especially stuff I was excited about, as well as saving up for my new place. I mean, these things were really pricey items. His mom keeps reminding us literally the last 3 times that she's called, oh, she was in such tears when she gave us back the pillow. It makes me question the family I may potentially marry into. Also, get this, the chair I had stored there was a $1,000 vintage chair, and I found it for $75. I mean, this thing is super flimsy and it's made of acrylic. I just said, well, I hope it makes it because it's so fragile. And that's when his mom let me know that she had been banging it around since it was raining. She even asked to use it for her bathroom, and then today, the day it was time to, give it up to me, she asked me what I planned on doing with it. It's all just super upsetting how they feel entitled to my items, and I totally learned a lesson to never put myself in this situation ever again, because these people are honestly the absolute worst. Yeah, I would be pretty pissed off if someone went after my stuff and either gave it away or sold it or destroyed it. There's no excuse for any of this. This is literally items that you're gonna come and pick up. It's not like you're abandoning it, and you got their permission. I just don't understand why they would go through there and be like, oh, this pillow, we could just give this away. And then when you try to be like, oh, you really want it? Okay, just keep it. It's totally fine. You can have it. They still try to double down and be like, wow, you made grandma cry. You're a terrible person. How dare you? Grandma cried so much when you asked for it back. Completely ignoring the fact that you're like, look, just keep the pillow. I don't care that much. This kind of behavior is super entitled and so toxic. And in that regard, I don't blame you for being like, yeah, I don't know if this family's right for me, because I know for a fact I would be very annoyed by this. So yeah, this really is a lesson learned kind of situation, because your mother-in-law sounds like an awful person and I would not want to put up with that in the slightest. My entitled boomer coworker is intentionally trying to sabotage my job so that I can get fired with her, because I really believe that after she got in trouble with management for literally not doing her job right, she's now trying to drag me down to her crappy standards by getting me in trouble and sabotaging me in a way where I'll get let go at the same time as her. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my boomer coworker has a habit of trying to get me to slack off at work. For context, we both work remote, and she's been getting in trouble lately with our higher-ups for poor work quality, claiming it's discrimination because I'm not getting in trouble and it's only her. But my work is solid, and hers is shaky at best all the time. Here's a quick example. I was running slides for an important meeting, and right as the meeting started, we had a massive storm blow through our area. I chatted with her quickly just as an FYI, saying, hey, can you just have the slide deck up and ready in case I lose power? And to that, she said she would. Now, the storm caused no issues, and I finished running the slide deck, but the meeting went over a bit, and we were late for a meeting right afterwards. She then calls me wanting to talk about the first meeting, and I tell her we can discuss it later since we're late for the next meeting. Well, she then immediately tries to get me to just bail on the meeting, saying to me, well, I mean, who's to say you didn't lose internet because of the storm and can't go to the meeting? And I kept saying, well, I didn't lose internet, so I'm going to grab a cup of coffee and then jump into this meeting. But she doubled down and said, well, I think I must have got your storm too, so maybe my internet went out too, so I guess we're both missing this meeting. And at that point, I just hung up on her. I then got my coffee, I went into the meeting, and lo and behold, she was there already. And you know what? I found it weird that she was trying so hard to get me to skip it by acting like she was going to skip it herself, but she went anyways. Which now leads me to the point of this entire post. We are working on a fairly large report together. We split everything and work on different sections. Once we get the data, we have 2 weeks to complete the report. And this coworker would constantly make comments about how much longer it was going to take us to finish the task, even though there was nothing causing us to fall behind. By Friday afternoon, I was ready to send off my section of the report to be reviewed by our boss. I had told my coworker that I would probably wait until Monday to send it, just so it doesn't get buried in my boss's inbox. She then told me her stuff wasn't going to be ready until until Wednesday. So Monday comes and I send my stuff over to my boss for review. My boomer coworker then immediately calls me with an attitude, saying to me, "Yeah, I'm just checking on you to see if everything is good in your neighborhood because we normally send our stuff at the same time." But I just told her that my stuff was ready and it doesn't make sense for me to sit on it for like 2 days waiting for her stuff before sending mine. The two items are in no way dependent on each other, completely separate sections, and it's never been a policy that we have to send our stuff to our boss at the same time. Well, suddenly she was able to get her stuff out that same day and not on Wednesday, and so it just feels like she's mad that I did it first. I have now officially finished all of my tasks for this report and submitted everything up for review, while she's scrambling to get hers done, claiming she's trying to submit them but her files are too big, and she's working with IT to fix the problem. Now, I personally believe this is just a blatant lie, as her file sizes are smaller than mine, and I had no issue sending them, so how could she? Now, trust me, I could list a dozen other examples, but overall, it just seems like she's been getting a lot of heat from upper management to perform better, and instead of just performing better, she's trying to bring me down and lower the bar for what the expectation is. It turns out just doing the bare minimum for my job is enough to make her look bad, and the more she tries to sabotage me, the more it makes me want to go above and beyond to really highlight her incompetence, because this coworker is honestly such a problem. Oh man, this is one of those situations where seriously, she is obviously trying to get you fired as well. She's failing at her job, she's in a lot of hot water, and she clearly wants a friend to go down with her. And if I was in your shoes, I would never let her do that to you ever. Because like literally now you now know that she's lying, she's just trying to like pull one over on you, and she's trying to make it so that you get in trouble. And that is so awful. Like really, that's super frustrating. So hopefully this lady gets fired, because like the way she's acting, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled supervisor tries to micromanage me in a way that is super obnoxious, so I decided to maliciously comply just to get back at her in a way that she will truly never forget. Here's how I did it. So I was working at an organization where part of my job was organizing thousands of high-quality photos of students' artworks from the main computer I worked on and transferring them to a network server. The goal was to make high-quality images accessible to other staff remotely. Now, to do it correctly, the process was time-consuming. It involved making medium-resolution images from high-resolution Photoshop files. Now, the time-consuming part was that each image needed to be individually labeled with specific details about the artwork, as well as its creators, its dimensions, etc. My department manager had emphasized the importance of this task, as these labeled images were important for various organizational needs for other staff. But unfortunately, my new supervisor, Karen, that's obviously not her real name, was a major micromanager. She said to me, "Why are you spending so much time on this project? I only want you to work on this in the last 30 minutes of your shift." Now, I tried to convince her it wasn't an efficient use of my time, arguing that flexibility in my workflow was necessary. I explained that on many days, this task would be an ideal fill-in activity, allowing me to stay productive during otherwise slow periods. But she said to me, "No, just do it in the last 30 minutes of your shift." So I said to her, "Okay, you got it." And that's when my malicious compliance started. On some days, there were literally no other productive tasks to carry on with. I could have made great progress on the task, but no. I would sit there trying to look busy, or walk around the campus with a few sheets of paper in hand. I would try to invent ways to be or look productive, but sadly, in actual fact, I was doing very little at all. This then went on for a few months when one day I had a call from the department manager asking me why I hadn't finished that project yet. I then said to him, "Well, I've been specifically instructed by Karen not to spend any time on this job, except for, the last 30 minutes of my shift." Well, Karen didn't stay with the organization for much longer after that, and trust me when I say this, I was looking forward to that much sooner than later. Oh man, I've been there. Raise your hand if you've been there, because I've definitely been there, dude. This is so annoying. They see what you're doing and they're like, you need to spend less time on this and spend more time doing other things. Only work on this at the end of the day. And then guess what? It never gets done. Literally ever. It just never happens, and it's always your fault somehow. So I just love the fact that you turned this right back on this Karen and said, "Oh no, this is definitely your fault," because she learned very quickly that she can't micromanage like that and actually expect anything to legitimately get done. An entitled Karen literally wants to steal my takeout order, all because she's in a hurry, claiming that I can wait just a little bit longer and that she's gotta go because her kids are in the car. And I'm honestly still shocked, because this is the weirdest interaction I've probably ever had in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I stopped by a local Thai spot to pick up a takeout order that I had called in about 25 minutes earlier. I get there, I get my name, and the guy at the counter says, "Yeah, just finishing it up, it'll be out in a minute." And I think to myself, okay, no problem, I can wait. Well, then this customer who came in after me, marches up to the counter, and she says loudly, "I need that order, I'm in a rush." The cashier calmly tells her that it's already taken, but she then turns and points at me and says, "He looks like he can wait, I've got kids in the car." Now, when she said this, I kind of laughed thinking it's a joke, but clearly it wasn't. She then says to me directly, "Come on, be kind. Just let me take your food. You can wait for the next one." I say to her, "Ma'am, I ordered this 30 minutes ago and I'm taking it home to my family too." This Karen then actually tries to walk behind the counter to grab the bag that just came up. I mean, the cashier has to block her and say, "Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave if you don't calm down." This entitled Karen then storms out, muttering how selfish people are and how this is why the world's falling apart. And it was so shocking to find out the world was falling apart over takeout and not because this Karen was literally super entitled and tried to steal my food. Dude, this is so stupid, like seriously. Who in their right mind's gonna walk into a restaurant and be like, "No, I need that food right now. My children are way more important than you." And it's like, dude, you're just too lazy to order and now you're trying to make everybody else be inconvenienced by your idiocracy. Like seriously, that's so dumb, but also if that happened to me, I would be so happy to tell her, "No, you're not taking any of my food." Like I think I would find some kind of like sixth satisfaction out of being like, "Nope, you're not getting it, sorry." Because she even pointed to the original poster and said, you can wait, I've got kids in the car." And it's like, no, I'm not gonna wait actually. I ordered this 30 minutes ago. What do you mean I'm gonna wait? Just because you're a parent doesn't mean you're better than me. And based on the way you're acting, I bet your kids are like exactly like you, so I automatically don't care about your kids. So get lost, go to like McDonald's or something like that. It's not my problem you can't plan dinner properly. So yeah, I love this so much. This is hilarious in my opinion. And I love the fact that she got pissed off that you didn't give her your food, as if you're somehow required to give that up for some stupid reason. An entitled jerk gets pissed off at me when he says I parked way too close to his car. And even though I pointed out that he literally parked over the line, he still tried to blame this on me by saying this is all my fault, leaving me dumbfounded by his utter stupidity. Here's how it went down. Okay, so I was unpacking my university flat yesterday, and when I pulled into the car park, I pulled up next to two empty cars. Usually, people will fill the trunk, and then if they need to get any larger items in, they'll reverse or pull up on the pavement to get the doors open. So I pull in next to this car, and when I get out, I realize that his wheels are in my parking space. But it's no big deal because the spaces are bigger than normal, and my car still fits within the space. So I go up and I start packing bags and boxes, and then start bringing them down. When I get down, the first car is gone, and the second car has moved into its space. This man is at his car with his daughter, packing up her things and watching me walk to my car. I unlock my car, I start putting things in, and then this exchange happens. This guy looks at me and says, "Next time, don't park so close." I look around and then I look at him and I say, "Wait, are you talking to me?" He says to me, "Yeah, I couldn't get my doors open." But I just responded by saying, "Yeah, well, you're parked over the line, man." And then I pointed down at the lines. He said to me, "Yeah, well, I couldn't even get the doors open." But I responded by saying, "Well, that's because you were over my space." The man then tried to say that the place is empty, even though it wasn't. And when he said that, he swore at me. So I responded back and said, "Do not swear at me like that." He then walked away in a huff, and I came back later and another car had parked on his left, so he decided to put a cone in the space to his right so no one could park there. But the best part about it is that someone just moved the cone and parked there anyways. I later saw him twice more today, and he either looked away from me or he hid behind things that he was holding on to. And that to me is just proof enough that he's ashamed of his behavior, because this guy was a massive jerk. Okay, this guy has no business trying to tell people how to park. He's literally parked over the line and he's trying to be like, "Hey, you need to watch where you're parking." It's like, dude, what are you talking about? You literally can't even park in your space. You're over the line and I'm parked normally. Like, if anyone needs to move, it's you and not me. And I love how he's trying to be like, "Oh, the car park's empty. You could have parked anywhere. Next time, don't park so close to me." It's like, maybe next time, if you learned how to park correctly, this wouldn't be a problem. So I don't know. I hate people who act like this because it really is super entitled, and it just makes you believe that everything's your fault when literally it's all self-inflicted problems. And that's the part I just don't think they will ever understand. An entitled call center worker was rude and incredibly racist to my coworker. So I decided to get some revenge by literally bullying her until she either quit or was fired, because now I no longer have to deal with her and I'm honestly super happy about it. Here's what happened. So my coworker is a very sweet little old Asian lady. She speaks with the accent and grammar of someone who spent most of their life speaking a language other than English. She also happens to be incredibly smart, very kind, and good at her job, as well as a consummate professional. On the other hand, I do not fit the definition of a consummate professional, and you're about to find out why. We had been dealing with this phone rep that we had to call as part of our job. Of all the reps, this lady was the hardest to deal with. She spoke with a southern accent that was so thick it was nearly impossible to understand. Even for me, by the way, and I'm a native lifelong English speaker. And I don't bring this up because there's a problem with having an accent, but rather to highlight the hypocrisy of the entire situation. This lady asked a multitude of extra questions that none of her counterparts had asked, and required extra step steps for us to look up things for her. She also wasn't the nicest person in the world. She was snarky, she was terse, and generally very unhelpful. I complained about her a couple of times, but nothing was done about it. One day, my coworker had her on speakerphone, and I overheard the way she was talking to her, and my God, I was not happy. Somehow my coworker could understand her better than I could, so tell me why this chick was talking to my coworker like she was the dirt on the bottom of her shoe. It was in the way she repeated things verbatim if my coworker didn't give her exactly the answer she wanted, answers that she oftentimes already knew, but she still wanted to ask them just to be a pain. She would sigh and groan like she was in abject misery, refuse to answer my coworker's questions, and the tone of utter disgust and disdain in her voice. This lady was obnoxious to me and to others who I would talk to about her, but downright repugnant to my colleague. The more I thought about it, the more I realized everyone else I worked with, except for my one Asian coworker, sounds white or American on the phone, and none of us had received that level of disrespect. There was clearly a pattern. I determined that this lady was being racist towards my coworker, and that even if that wasn't her motive, she was a piece of garbage for talking to literally one of the sweetest and most competent people in that kind of way, which then began my campaign. I knew I couldn't prove that she was anything but generally bad at customer service, and nobody seemed to care about it enough to do anything about it. Therefore, I set out to make her job as hard as possible. I started taking all the calls that had to go through her when I was on shift, and I would drag the calls out as much as I could. I would put her on hold, I would pretend I was fumbling around for information, I would speak over her and give her more information than she asked for, but I would do it really slowly. I would go on deranged and off-topic tangents, anything to waste her time, and always with the sweetest and cheeriest tone I could. She went from snarky and mean to anxious and desperate, and I would like to assume that they had turnaround times they had to meet. I also continued to file complaints about her inefficiency and rude demeanor, and discreetly encouraged others who worked other shifts to also slow down their calls with her. Well, this week I discovered she no longer works at that call center when I went to file another complaint and was told that she's no longer being supervised by the person the complaints were being routed to. So there's really no telling whether or not she left of her own volition or was transferred to another department, which would explain why I haven't had to deal with her this week. Either way, I call it a victory, and hopefully this was a learning experience for her to be a better person. Dude, good for you. I love this so much. I've run into people like this as well, and it's absolutely obnoxious. There's clearly some discrimination going on, but you can't point it out, and it really is like under the surface, so you're like, man, this sucks so much. But I love the way you handled this, and I love the fact that you were filing reports. That is like a fantastic option. Sometimes it literally just takes the supervisor knowing about this for this kind of behavior to like stop immediately. So good for you for taking a stand for your coworker, because from the sounds of it, your coworker is super sweet and they definitely did not deserve this. My dad is consistently using my car, even though he wrecked my previous one, leaving me a nervous wreck every time he leaves for work. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, a year ago, I got a brand new car on finance. I work from home 4 days a week, and my dad works 5 days a week, roughly 50 miles away. I'm in my 20s and I live at home with my dad. My dad has his own car, which is just as nice as mine and meant for long distances and driving on the motorway. But because of the 100-mile round trip daily, he decided to start using my car 4 days a week for work. He told me he was using my new car because he doesn't want to decrease the value of his car when he eventually comes to sell it by increasing the mileage. He also said that because my car is on finance, it belongs to the garage. So I should make the most out of the money that I'm paying and use as many miles as possible. Now, I would agree with this if I weren't limited on my finance agreement and my insurance to a certain number of miles. A total, by the way, that I was getting very close to. To be clear, I am the insurance policy holder and primary driver, which I'm pretty sure is illegal as he drives it more than me, and I'm the keeper of the vehicle. The biggest issue is that the car I have now is not the new car I bought last year. My dad was involved in a crash in that one, and luckily my insurance replaced it with a like for like. However, I was without a car for 3 months, and my insurance skyrocketed. In that time without a vehicle, he never offered to take me anywhere, and I had to pay for taxis or count on lifts from family or friends. I'm glad he wasn't harmed in the accident, but every day I fret until my car is safely parked outside, as I'm scared the same thing will happen, and I will have to go through all the stress of insurance and everything else again, and be even more financially worse off. My dad also isn't someone I can sit down and talk to about this. In this house, it's what he says goes, and it's better that way to prevent things from blowing up. I hope this description of him is all I have to say about who he is as a person, because a civil discussion is completely out of the question. There is a lot of wear and tear on my car, which is likely to have come from his journeys, which he has said he will pay part of, which I really hope is true. After his accident, he lowered my rent slightly to account for an additional cost to my insurance. And just to be clear though, I pay for everything to do with this vehicle, apart apart from when he needs to fuel and I already haven't filled it up. I have lied about the insurance putting additional caps on following the accident that he was in, just to potentially get him to chill out on driving it. But guess what? He literally doesn't. He has even started using it outside of work times. It's a cycle I can't interrupt at this point to not disturb the peace. If there's any clever lie regarding insurance or finances that would dissuade him from using the car, I would really appreciate it, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, it sounds like your dad's a controlling jerk, and I'm so sorry you're dealing with that. It seems like no is never an answer for this guy, and that is really obnoxious. So I really want to echo one of the comments that basically says, like, the best thing to do is to keep your head down and get out from underneath your father's control. Get a plan to leave or move out or find roommates or something, because I completely agree with this. The only possible solution is maybe like getting away from your dad and taking the car with you. Any lie or any excuse or even like standing your ground just isn't going to get through to this guy. He's still going to do it and is still going to screw you over again. So hopefully you take that path, because from the sounds of it, it really seems stressful to be living with this guy. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for planning to call the cops on a former friend of mine just to get back my wallet that they took from my home? Here's what happened. Okay, so this is a long story, but after a hurricane last year, a woman who I had become friends with after hiring her as a cleaner went to my house with her son and his friends, and they tossed a bunch of damaged stuff, but also a bunch of not damaged stuff. I was not there, I had evacuated, but I paid her to help me out via Zelly. In the midst of this, she sent me a photo of my main wallet and said she was putting it in her car for safekeeping. Their job was to just take out mattresses, appliances, furniture, stuff like that, and to help clear out the yard. I was returning 2 days later, but those big pieces would be hard for me and my husband to move, and I specifically told her not to throw out any wood items, including my dining room table. When I returned, I was furious because she'd basically trashed my house and threw out stuff that I had already green tagged to stay, and things I told her not to do, and just put them on a huge pile in a way that immediately ruined them. Bunches of my personal stuff, like expensive makeup, was just completely missing. She kept texting saying that she deserved a cash tip for doing such a great job, and at that point, I just lost it, and I let her know exactly how I felt via text messaging. We got into a text battle, and she was all butthurt about it. Well, that was last October, and I have not seen her since, but I've also reached out suggesting that we meet and talk to clear the air. I was just very upset at the time. I mean, my mom had just passed away a week earlier, our house was damaged, and then I come home to find it basically stripped of stuff that I had planned to keep, plus a lot of my personal things that I knew were fine. But she refused to respond, and I gave her a final deadline of last weekend to return my wallet. Now, I feel like after all this time, she is just being very childish. So, would I be the jerk for now going to the police and filing a report against her for stealing it? The wallet was a gift from my mom, but more importantly, it has an expired ID, credit cards, gift cards, etc. And I put a stop to the credit cards, but I don't even know everything that's in it. I just want it back, and I don't think I'm asking too much. What should I do? Holy crap, no, you are not the jerk for wanting to go to the cops. This lady is being super weird. It honestly sounds like she ransacked your house and then was like, okay, cash tip me please. Like, dude, what are you talking about? This is not what you asked for. She basically stole your expensive makeup, a wallet, and God knows what else, and said, okay, see you later. And that is unfair. Like, all you're asking is for her to give back your property. You probably don't even want to talk to her any further. You just want your stuff back. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk if you did want to go to the cops. You have given this person ample opportunity to prove they're not a piece of garbage. And if they really want to mess around, then in my opinion, it's time for them to find out. My toxic entitled sister-in-law tried to force her way into my bridal party and quite literally hijack my wedding. And even though I told her, no, you're not going to do that, she still showed up to my wedding trying to walk down the aisle with my bridesmaids, forcing me to step up and shut her down. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened during my wedding and I simply needed to share it. My fiance and I are planning a small intimate wedding, just our closest friends and family with nothing too over the top. I also picked my bridal party carefully, namely my best friend, my sister, and two of my closest cousins. That is it. We also didn't include someone who I will call Lena, and Lena is the main problem of this story. Now, I didn't include her not because of anything personal, but because we're not close as she lives in another state. We barely talk, and frankly, she's known for being dramatic and making things all about herself. But when the invites went out, I got a long, angry message from her saying, wait, I'm not a bridesmaid. I just assumed I was. I already bought a dress for the wedding and everything. I responded kindly and explained it's a small bridal party of people that I've known and been close to for years. But she said to me, I'm literally your future sister-in-law. That automatically makes me one. You can't exclude family like that. Now, I honestly thought that would be the end of it, but I was completely wrong. Lena decided to unilaterally insert herself herself into all the planning. She created a group chat with my actual bridesmaids without me and started trying to plan the bachelorette weekend in Las Vegas. For context, I don't drink, I hate clubs, and I had already made plans for a relaxing cabin weekend with my girls. And you know what? Lena had never even asked what I wanted. Then she sent me a PowerPoint titled Elevating Your Wedding, Lena's Aesthetic Suggestions. She wanted to change our entire color scheme because the sage green dresses I picked apparently washed her out, and she said we should go with burgundy and gold for a more luxurious vibe. And spoiler, I'm wearing ivory lace in a garden, so it would have clashed horrifically. At this point, I had had enough. I called her and I said, Lena, you are not in the bridal party. You are more than welcome to attend, but you need to stop trying to take over. This isn't your wedding. Well, when I said that, she immediately got defensive. Wow, so now I'm just some outsider. I'm trying to help you make your wedding less basic. You clearly don't know how these things work. Now, I stayed calm and I said to her, no, I know exactly how I want my wedding to be. I'm not asking for your approval, and you are absolutely not going to disrespect my boundaries. Well, fast forward to the actual wedding day, and Lena shows up in a long, dramatic black sequin dress, totally out of place, and she then tried to line up with the actual bridesmaids before the ceremony. I had to personally stop her and tell her to sit down and no, she wasn't walking in with the bridal party. She then spent the whole night sulking at a table and telling anyone who would listen that I was controlling, jealous of her confidence, and trying to push her out of the family, which is 100% not true and honestly super obnoxious to deal with. Holy crap, Lena is insane. She not only tried to hijack your wedding and be like, no, it's mine, I'm gonna make it how I want it, but she also just tried to like casually show up to the wedding and be like, okay, time to be a bridesmaid. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You are literally not invited. Like, what does she think was gonna happen? Did she think you were gonna be like, oh my god, you're right, that black sequins dress, it fits everything I'm looking for. You're now my maid of honor, get in the front of the row. Like, dude, that's some crazy behavior right there. So good for you for shutting her down. Like, that needed to be said. She needed to be told straight up, no, you're not at my bridal party, no, you can't take over it, and no, you can't join the bridesmaids looking like Morticia Addams from the Addams Family. Like, what is going on right now? Because her behavior is super weird and she literally tried to ruin your wedding. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled sister shares some very personal information about me with our mutual friends, but instead of confronting her directly, I decided to get some petty revenge by bogging down her email and text messaging with so much spam that it nearly made her phone completely unusable. Here's how I did it. So this happened a few years ago, but trust me, this is one of my best revenge stories I've ever had. I have a younger sister who we will call Kelly, and we are only 13 months apart. Despite our close age, we are very different from one another. We joke that I'm the sun child and she is the moon child, which is a way of saying that we're different as night and day. But despite this, we run in similar circles. I know her friends know me, and we all would hang out from time to time. One day, my sister's friend invited her to a party where a lot of our mutuals would be. Now, I wasn't close with the party host, so I wasn't invited, which is totally fine, I didn't care. Anyways, after that party, one of our mutuals texted me. He tells me that Kelly, in an effort to garner attention, told everyone at the party something personal that I confided in her. The friend who notified me was aware of this personal information prior to the party, and realized how inappropriate the information was for her to be sharing. Now, for a bit of background, my sister has always been the type to do whatever she can to get attention. She was always the loudest, most dramatic, or just the most energetic in every group of friends that she had. As an adult, she has even admitted to being an attention seeker and would often play up her reactions to things for the attention. This includes throwing me or others under a bus, revealing things that weren't hers to reveal, or just outright lying about situations that she was or wasn't involved in. Needless to say, I was very angry when my friend told me what personal information she shared at the party. But rather than confronting her for the 1000th time, which never got her behavior to change, I decided to get some revenge that was incredibly petty. And it was here that I decided to sign her up for every newsletter, random club update, political campaign support subscription, medical journal subscription, and any other email subscription I could get my hands on. All of them I knew would spam her every day, multiple times a day. I also ended up putting her email into almost 50 different newsletters and subscriptions to bog up her email. Well, at that next family gathering, she mentioned how she thinks she was hacked because she's getting endless emails and text messages about random things that she never signed up for. She chalked it up to probably being some guy she was arguing with over the internet a day or so prior to the emails flooding in, and I agreed it was probably that guy, but then I told her that maybe she shouldn't try to get on people's bad sides in the future by keeping to herself. I then told her a year later what I did, and she literally screams at me and says, "That was you?" And after explaining why I did it, she apologized for having told people at the party party and we eventually made up. In the end, nobody got hurt, but she did finally get to feel as frustrated as I was, and honestly, with all things considered, I don't regret a single thing. Dude, this is great because this hits her in like her private moments when she's checking her email or when she's like looking at her phone, which from the sounds of it is probably all the time. Like, I know if I was the sister in this story, I would be super pissed off if my email and text messaging was just completely blocked up. Like literally every single day you're getting all these messages constantly. Like that would be so annoying. So good for you for getting this revenge because from the sounds of it, your sister absolutely deserved it. An entitled boomer gives a cashier a hard time for literally no reason, as this young lady was just doing her job but was somehow receiving the blunt end of this idiot's criticism. So I decided to step in and shut her down, completely negating anything that she had to say about this young lady. Let's get started. Okay, I went to Dollar General today, and the young lady at the counter seemed a bit checked out but was polite and answered my questions as I walked by. Retail on a Friday morning during boomer hour is probably exhausting, but she was being a trooper and getting through it. I ended up finding my one item, and as I limped back up to the front, I saw this boomer lady at our intrepid cashier's counter berating her for something that sounded like the boomer's card not working. So I waited my turn. There was a conversation between the two workers at the registers about a manager, and then it was my turn to check out with our young cashier. Well, I have never seen the light leave someone's eyes in real time. She switched registers while the boomer lady stood at her original counter, fuming to herself about some nonsense in a frequency only fellow idiots can hear. The young lady who had just 10 minutes prior been sweet and helpful was now this burnt husk as she checked me out. I thanked her for her time twice, and I thanked her again for answering my earlier question, but she just shrugged and handed me my receipt. As I was walking out, the boomer lady had found a manager and was yelling at said manager about how the young cashier had been rude and incompetent and just wasn't paying attention to her. Well, after hearing that, I walked up and straight up spoke to the manager like the boomer wasn't there. I said to them, "Excuse me, miss. I just wanted you to know that young lady was actually very helpful and polite and did exactly what she's supposed to, including answering a difficult question. She is just doing her job and did nothing wrong." Now, unfortunately for my uncaffeinated self, my tone was sharper than I intended, which is totally my mistake because this boomer then turned her ire on me, saying that I had a bad attitude as well. Well, I just shrugged and I told her her bad attitude is her own problem and no one should have to deal with it. And then I thanked the manager again and I left because I knew I'd barely managed to hold my tongue as it was, and it was about to get worse if I stuck around. The boomer was still complaining as I left, even though now she seemed to have lost some of her steam. I definitely could have handled it better, but hopefully it made a difference. That poor young lady looked really sad, and she definitely did not deserve to get treated like that. Okay, honestly, I am so glad you stood up for that young lady because she absolutely deserved your support. Here she is just doing her job, and guess what? She's not responsible for this idiot's card not working. She's not responsible for any like glitches in the system. She's just trying to do her job and do it well. And if anything, this Karen is probably the one at fault. There's a chance that her card's not working because, hey, it's something that she did. Like, it's not the cashier's fault. They didn't have anything to do with that. So truly, the fact that you had a good thing to say about this young lady and you basically diffused anything this idiot was trying to say was just absolutely brilliant. Because I would argue that 90% of the time, there's no reason to act like that towards any customer service worker. They're literally just doing their job and they don't deserve that kind of grief. My job punishes you if you call out of work sick at the last possible minute. So I decided to maliciously comply by showing up to work incredibly ill, but then going home immediately afterwards as I had an awful fever. Here's what happened. To start things out, I work in healthcare, so if someone calls in sick, it is almost mandatory that they have to be replaced. I work the night shift and I don't live very far from work. It happened 2 times that when I woke up to get to work, I just don't feel well and that I won't be able to do my job properly. Now, I didn't do it on purpose. I just don't know I will call in sick until I wake up, which is about an hour before the night shift starts. We have a policy that if someone calls in sick less than 2 hours before their shift starts, they get the code unauthorized absence. It doesn't mean anything, but we can get in trouble for it, and it leaves a bad note on the employee files. Well, one day I did show up to work to not get another unauthorized absence, and also I really thought I could get through my shift. But less than 1 hour into my shift, a colleague says to me that I don't look very well, and that I should go back home. In fact, my temperature was 39 degrees Celsius. So we call my superiors saying I'm too sick and I can't work, so they don't have a choice and they just let me go home. And just as an FYI, if you get sick during a shift, the code on the schedule is sick from the time you leave work. Now, try to find a replacement for me at 1 o'clock in the morning when the evening evening shift already left and most people sleep at that time. The floor where I work has priority for staffing, meaning that they need to replace me. So after I left, the superior had to move an employee from another department, and the floor they moved her from stayed understaffed for the night. Now, my colleague knew I didn't call sick before because I didn't want to get an unauthorized absence, so she told the supervisor how stupid that rule of calling in sick 2 hours before the shift starts really is, and that it doesn't make any sense, as if we know in advance that we're going to be sick while we're sleeping. Also, what if an accident happens while we're on the way to work? Well, I guess they got a meeting or something, because in the following weeks, I noticed in my schedule that the 2 unauthorized absences from the last few months were replaced with sick. So it's like, okay, yeah, what a coincidence. I guess that it's better calling off last minute before a shift than in the beginning of it, especially for the graveyard shift where finding a replacement is way harder. But sometimes it kind of works out that way, and thankfully this time it really did. Oh yeah, I totally agree with the original poster here. That is a stupid policy and a stupid rule. So hopefully that's a permanent change, because seriously, that is incredibly dumb. And it's only meant to punish workers and force people to come in sick, which I really just don't think is a good idea when it comes to healthcare. Today, I messed up by asking the hot merchandise guy for his number at a concert I was going to. And now I'm mortified because I'm pretty sure he may have given me a fake number, as he has not responded to any of my text messages. Here's what's going on. I'm an 18-year-old female, and recently I had the most embarrassing but kind of bold experience, and I now just can't stop thinking about it, and not in a good way. I went to this small concert with one of my best friends. We bought the tickets months ago, and the singer has been one of my favorite artists for years, so I was really excited. I expected a long line and chaos, but when we showed up, there were literally only 3 people waiting for the concert. Since we had time to kill, we went to the merch table to get some sweatshirts. Now here's where the awkwardness started. I only brought about $100 in cash, and of course they didn't take it. My friend had to transfer money and use her card, which then led to this huge mess. You know, card declining, trying to swap sizes, lots of, oh, I'm sorry, actually can I get a small instead? That kind of thing. But the guy working the stand was super nice about it. He was chill, he was patient, maybe a little bit flirty. I am bad at reading signals, but either way, he was hot. Like stupid hot. Tall, muscular, I think you get it. Anyways, we went into the show, which only had about 100 people, really intimate vibe, and the artist was so good. One of his main messages was about how it's better to shoot your shot and just take the L than to live with a what if in your life. And I think you can probably see exactly where this is going. Towards the end of the concert, the hot merch guy walks on stage. It turns out he's the singer's brother. He's 22 and he lives in Los Angeles. I'm 18 and I'm from Colorado, heading to college on the East Coast in 2 months. So not exactly a realistic start. Still, my friend hyped me up and called it a post-concert high, or maybe I was just high on life, but I figured I might as well go for it. After the show, we were chatting with the artist and I asked nervously if his brother would be weirded out if I asked for his number. He kind of just repeated the advice from earlier, but then added in, oh, he gets that a lot. And I'm not sure if that was encouragement or a soft letdown. Anyways, I saw the hot brother back at the merch table talking to 2 older girls. And before I could chicken out, I literally interrupted them and I said, hey, sorry to bug you, but does your number come with the sweatshirts? And at that moment, I thought to myself, who says that? I mean, it just came out of my mouth. He looked kind of confused and I had to remind him that I was the problematic sweatshirt girl from earlier. Then I clarified I was looking for his number, and to my surprise, he said sure and typed a number into my phone. I then walked away thinking, oh my gosh, I just did that. And one of the girls who was talking to him laughed and gave me a low high five. I couldn't tell if she was being supportive or making fun of me, but I didn't really think about it too hard. Once I walked over to my friend, I texted him something simple. Hey, this is the girl in the pink dress from the concert. And you know what? He hasn't responded. And now I'm spiraling. Was I super awkward? Did he give me a fake number? Did I weird him out? I'm not usually this bold, and the more I think about it, the more mortified I feel. Well, at least I tried, right? Because right now I feel pretty dumb. Oh man, I wouldn't be embarrassed by that. This was a fun opportunity to try and be more bold and try and ask someone out, even if it didn't quite go your way. The stakes were pretty low in this situation. And while he probably did give you a fake number, at least you tried. And at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with trying. Am I overreacting for calling off the wedding after my fiance kissed another guy on her bachelorette trip and then lied to me about it right to my face? Here's what's going on. Okay, I'm 32 years old and I was supposed to get married in 2 months. My fiance is 30, and last weekend she went on what she described as a chill girls trip for her bachelorette party. She told me it was going to be just 4 of her closest friends, some wine tasting, some spa stuff, and a private chef at the Airbnb. Now, I had no issue with it, and I even helped her pick the place out. A couple of days after she got back, I got a random Instagram message from some guy saying that my fiance was all over another man during her trip. But you know what? I just ignored it and I blocked him. I figured it was someone trying to stir the pot or something like that. But then I got an email from the Airbnb host. They thought I was the one who booked the place and asked if we wanted to leave a review. They also attached a few Ring camera photos from the porch as a heads up, since a few extra guests stopped by. And in one of the photos, my fiance is clearly kissing a shirtless guy outside around 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, when I saw this, I confronted her. She first denied anything happened and then finally admitted to it after I showed her the photo. She said it was a dare and that she was drunk and it meant nothing. She says I'm overreacting and that I should not throw everything away over one stupid moment. But you know what? I called off the wedding. Her friends are now messaging me saying I'm being extreme and that every bachelorette party gets wild, and it doesn't mean that she loves me any less. Her mom even said that I'm embarrassing the family by overreacting. So is it really that crazy to end the relationship over this? I feel like if she could do that and then lie to my face, then marriage is out of the question. So truly, am I overreacting right now? Because I seriously don't know what to do. Holy crap, dude, this is super sketchy. There's no way this is okay. Like, I'm legitimately astonished that anybody's taking her side right now. Like, I understand stepping up for like your family and being there for them when there's some kind of like strife or drama, but this is not one of those situations where you can like take her side and be like, oh yeah, she's right. Because she was literally kissing and making out with some guy who is definitely not her soon-to-be husband. Like, I don't know about you, but that's a deal breaker across the board. So no, you're not overreacting by saying, yeah, I'm not gonna get married to you. Anyone who's agreeing with her and being like, oh, come on, it's not that big of a deal, they are literally part of the problem, and this is just not something I would ever ignore. Am I the jerk for not paying for something I ordered and walking out after my friends literally tried to pressure me into drinking? And despite the fact that I said no multiple times, they still refused to listen to me and just walked all over my boundaries. Here's what happened. I'm a 23-year-old female, and I have a friend group with 5 women, including me. Their ages range from between 21 to 26. This happened yesterday, and I need opinions on whether I was right to walk out without paying or if I was wrong for doing so. So yesterday was my friend's birthday, and we'll call this friend Lily for the sake of the story. She just turned 21 and wanted a birthday dinner at a fancy restaurant. Me and 4 other girls were in attendance, and all of my friends drink aside from me. I'm just not a drinker. I've never been one and will never be one. My friends and I get seated down, and Lily, all happy, suggests me to buy an alcoholic beverage. Well, I refuse, and the rest of my friends decided to chime in and tell me to just get one. But again, I said no. They know I don't drink and how I feel about it, but basically them begging me to get a drink kept going on for like 5 minutes. They even sent a waiter away because I hadn't agreed yet. Now, I'm not good under pressure, especially when multiple people are telling me to do one thing. I eventually said yes though because they just kept on begging. Lily even suggested a drink and said that this one's for beginners. You know, whatever that means. But I told them that I didn't want it and that I know I won't like it. But they said that I will. The drink came, and as I stated, I didn't like it. And after one sip, I just wanted it gone. They told me to keep trying, but I just simply refused. And luckily, they finally dropped it. Anyways, the bill comes along, and I separated the meal that I got from the drink. They all asked me why I did that, as I should be buying the drink, but I said I wasn't buying it since I didn't willingly get it. They begged me to get it, knowing I didn't want it. Lily then said that I could have said no, but I did. I said it many times. They then kept going back and forth with me on it, and eventually I just got up and I walked out of the restaurant. I sent the money for my meal to Lily and stated that if she or no one else was going to buy the drink, then they should not have begged me to get it. My husband stated I wasn't in the wrong and that I should distance myself from them. However, the text messages from all 4 of them just haven't stopped, and now I'm not sure if I'm the jerk. What should I do? Okay, the fact that your friends seriously try to pressure you into drinking, like that is some high school juvenile crap. Not to mention, it's incredibly disrespectful, and that for me marks them as not good friends or even friends in the first place. Like seriously, they pressured you into drinking after you said, guys, I don't drink, please stop. And then when you say, no, I'm not gonna pay for it, Lily seriously has the audacity to be like, oh, well, you could have said no. But it's like, dude, are you deaf? I literally said no so many times. I don't like drinking, I don't want to do this. And yet these people forced the original poster to do this even though they really didn't want to. That is messed up and not okay. So no, you're not the jerk for not paying. These people are not friends, they're not good people, and the fact that they stomped all over your boundaries and then tried to make this look like it was your fault, that in my opinion is super toxic, and you do not need that in your life. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.